Chapter 938. Cake? Yu Lily spat out a word again. In her mind, there was a shoe swaying in front of her, and on it, there was a white cake. Lick it clean. Oh Ming's voice seemed to ring in her mind. Shunjilia saw the change of her expression, held the lighter in his hand, and quietly walked over. Yu Lily stared at the faint blue flame, and it seemed that she was surrounded by a nightclub with bright lights. Men and women were dancing enthusiastically, and there were beautiful hostesses around looking at her and laughing at her. Countless pairs of eyes were staring at her with contempt, ridicule, and sympathy, as if they were saying, "Lick it clean, lick it clean, lick it clean." Yu Lily stood there and wanted to escape, but there was another person behind her. Humiliation and despair. Yu Lily had never been in such an unbearable situation. However, the scene that made her feel even more unbearable was yet to come. That man, the man whom she loved deeply, the man whom she loved dearly, had given her the most unbearable and embarrassing situation. Some people around picked up their mobile phones to record videos, but there was a man on her body. In front of so many people, in front of everyone, Ming bowed his head and smiled, full of evil. His pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes were full of ambiguity and revenge, and he whispered, "You are here." Yu Lily suddenly stood up and screamed, "No, no, Ming, you bitch, bastard. I quit. Do you really think that I can't live without you? Shameless and self-righteous." As she spoke, she punched Ming in front of her, almost using all her strength, so hard, so mercilessly. Shunjilia did not say a word, stretched out his hands, and let her hit his palms. It was not painful, but it was definitely not easy. "Why do you do this to me? This behavior is no different from raping me in public," Yu Lily cried and punched the man in front of her, but soon her hands were held. Yu Lily could not break free, and tears fell down. She cried, "Why do you force me? I have obviously forgotten. Why do you force me to remember?" Shunjilia held her hands, looked at her with a pair of eyes, and said, "What did I do to you in public? Birthday? Cake? And then?" She remembered, but didn't say anything. Shunjilia looked at her and whispered seductively, "What did I do to you? Will you tell me?" Yu Lily couldn't say a word. She threw herself at him and hit him hard in the chest. B*TCH, B*TCH, B*TCH. Shunjilia groaned. He held her hand and took a step back. At the same time, he felt that he had been scolded unjustly. But then he saw Yu Lily's eyes staring at him. Or, he was staring at Ming. Shunjilia's hair stood on end when she glared at him like that. It was hatred. Shunjilia had never seen such hatred before. Didn't Yu Lily love him? Why was there such hatred? Just as Shunjilia was looking at her and wondering what was going on, Yu Lily suddenly rushed toward him. She lifted her legs and jumped up, wrapping her arms around his neck. Chapter 939. Shunjilia screamed and wanted to push her away, but Yu Lily's hands and feet clung to him tightly. The strength of biting his neck was as if she wanted to bite a piece of flesh off his body. It was so hard and so cruel. Shunjilia gasped in pain and shouted, "Yu Lily, are you F***king sick?" However, these words stimulated Yu Lily's anger and hatred, and she bit harder. Shunjilia's hands pinched under her armpits, and Yu Lily's arms suddenly became sore and weak, and she loosened them. Taking the opportunity to throw her on the sofa, Shunjilia gasped and reached out to wipe his hand, which was full of red. After being thrown like this, Yu Lily came back to herself. Looking at the man in front of her, Yu Lily felt a little dizzy. Looking at the man in front of her, she found that the man was Shunjilia. Shunjilia looked at her and covered his neck with his hand. His face was pale with pain, and he said innocently, "It's just a meal of fried chicken. Do you have to be so cruel?" Then he looked at Yu Lily with an aggrieved look and spread out his palm, saying, "Look, it's red." Yu Lily wiped her face, and her hands were wet. Tears, and the red on the corner of her mouth. Shunjilia looked at her dumbfounded expression and asked, "Did you remember something just now?" Remembered something. Yu Lily couldn't remember when she had forgotten about it, but just now, she suddenly remembered it, and she had lost all her dignity. That night, he treated me like that. How could I forget? Such a great humiliation. Yu Lily was like a dog, humiliated by him and ridiculed by everyone. Why did Yu Lily remember that she committed suicide, remembered that she was bullied, and remembered why she wanted to die and why she didn't want to live, but why couldn't she remember why she continued to stay with Oh Ming? Why? What reason did she have to stay with this man? Wasn't the reason why she left because of her identity? She thought she still had the self-righteous dignity, but she didn't know that her so-called dignity had been destroyed by Oh Ming that night. Wiping away her tears, Yu Lily stood up and was about to speak when she heard the door open. When Oh Ming walked in and saw Shunjilia at home, he was stunned for a moment. Then, his face suddenly darkened. Oh Ming looked at Shunjilia with an indescribable sense of depression and asked, "Why are you here?" Shunjilia clutched his neck. When he turned to look at Oh Ming, he felt a little wronged. When Yu Lily saw Oh Ming, her face also darkened. Her eyes fell on Shunjilia, and her voice was indescribably gentle as she said, "You go back first." When Shunjilia heard Yu Lily's voice, he immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Things are not looking good. Sure enough, Oh Ming's face became more and more unsightly. It was as if he had swallowed a landmine. It was extremely dangerous. Just as Shunjilia was about to walk out with his head lowered, Oh Ming pulled him back with one hand. Shunjilia wasn't prepared at all. When Oh Ming tugged at him, his hand immediately loosened. Chapter 940. Faintly, there were red lipstick marks on it, stained with blood. Buzz. In Oh Ming's mind, there was a rush of blood, and an uncontrollable anger instantly broke down and filled every corner of Oh Ming's body. What's going on? Oh Ming was so angry that he roared. He waved his hands and stared at Yu Lily. Yu Lily looked at him and felt a sharp pain in her heart. Seeing his obviously angry face, she sneered, "Can't you see that I am doing the same thing as you?" Doing the same thing as him. Oh Ming's face was darker, and his eyes were sharp. He gritted his teeth and said, "Yu Lily, what do you mean?" When Yu Lily heard that, she sneered, "Don't you know what I mean? Where you went, what you did, and who you were with, I won't ask anything, but you don't have the right to question me." Shunjilia knew that the situation was not right. He immediately lowered his head and walked quickly to the door. But before he reached the door, Oh Ming pulled him back with one hand. Shunjilia was a little annoyed and asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm going home." "Going home?" Oh Ming sneered, grabbed his collar with his big hand, and slammed him against the door. Without saying a word, he punched him in the face. Shunjilia was punched, and there was blood in his mouth. The sweet taste overflowed, and he was in so much pain that he gasped. "You are really..." Shunjilia wanted to curse, but before he could say anything, he saw Oh Ming's fist had reached out again. When Shunjilia saw it, he whispered, "Damn it." Shunjilia dodged and blocked Oh Ming's fist. He was furious and shouted, "Both of you are sick. If you have something to do, solve it by yourself. What kind of hero are you to bully your neighbor? Damn it, the man and the woman are also sick." Shunjilia felt very wronged, but at this critical moment, he had no chance to complain. He quickly dodged, blocked Oh Ming's fist, and fought back. For a moment, the two of them were wrestling. Yu Lily stood on the side and didn't have the slightest intention to stop them. Oh Ming is a scumbag, a bitch. Shunjilia had awakened the memory that she had painstakingly hidden. He wasn't a good person either. He deserved it. Kill as many as you can. Yu Lily looked at him coldly for a while and then went into the room. He purposely closed the door loudly, with no intention of turning back. Oh Ming heard the voice inside and paused. While he was distracted, he took a vicious punch from Shenjilia. Oh Ming was caught off guard and stumbled backward. When she turned to look, Shenjilia had already opened the door and run away. Shenjilia pressed the elevator button and looked at the mirror next to the elevator. His originally handsome face had been beaten to such a state. It was over. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. Sigh, do I have to pay such a price for a free meal of fried chicken? No. Shenjilia felt that this was an unlucky year for him. With a sigh, he stepped into the elevator as soon as it arrived. Oh Ming watched as Shenjilia escaped. He reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stood up and glanced at the coffee table in the house. On the table, there were the remains of fried chicken, a cup, and a beer can. Chapter 941. Huh, what does that mean? Where did you go? What did you do? Who were you with? I won't ask anything, but you don't have the right to question me. So, are they dating? In my house, in front of me, she actually did such a thing? Thinking of the teeth mark on Shenjilia's neck, Oh Ming was furious. He walked quickly to his room and twisted the doorknob, but it didn't open. Oh Ming was so angry that he slammed the door and shouted, "You, open the door." However, the person inside didn't seem to hear him and didn't move at all. Oh Ming turned and went to the study. There was a spare key in the study. There was a spare key in the study. Oh Ming quickly went inside and found the key. He opened the door, but he couldn't push it open. Yu Lily glanced at the dresser and cabinet blocking the door, then bowed her head and continued to pack up. You, open the door. Oh Ming roared, explain to me clearly, what is your relationship with that guy? Yu Lily listened to the movement outside. After packing up the last piece of clothing, she picked up the phone and called her colleague Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian seemed to be playing with her mobile phone and quickly answered the phone. Hello? Qianqian, can I sleep at your house tonight? Yi Qianqian suddenly did a carp roll and jumped up from the bed. With a look of joy on her face, she shouted, that's great. When are you coming? Do you have the address? No. I'll send you a WeChat message. Where are you coming from? Yu Lily told her where she was, but the knocking on the door still didn't stop. Yi Qianqian heard it clearly on the other side of the phone. She frowned and said, what are you doing? It seems that someone is quarreling over there. Are you quarreling with your boyfriend? No, it's just a mad dog barking outside. Then send me a WeChat message, and I'll take a taxi. Okay, be sure to come. Yu Lily hung up the phone and was not in a hurry to go out. She hid the suitcase in the cabinet. At the same time, Oh Ming had pushed the door more than half open. He walked to the door and saw her. His face darkened, and he said angrily, what do you mean by this? Yu Lily stood inside and looked at Oh Ming's angry face through the tall dressing table and other things. Oh Ming, let's break up, she said, enunciating each and every word clearly. Oh Ming narrowed his eyes and looked at Yu Lily, trying to see something in her face. But, Yu Lily's face didn't show the slightest bit of discomfort. There was no reluctance, no sadness, only indifference. Her expression was exactly the same as when she'd faced him after she'd had an abortion. Oh Ming panicked for no reason, and his fists involuntarily clenched. A pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her and asked, why? Why? Yu Lily smiled strangely and shook her head. I don't know why, just like I don't know why I suddenly confessed to you, and I don't know why I want to be with you. Do I need a reason? Oh Ming. Yu Lily's expression was very strange. It seemed to be sarcasm and ridicule. Chapter 942. Why? Why is there no why? Oh Ming looked at her incredulously and frowned. Yu Lily stood in the room, looked at Oh Ming, and said, "Oh Ming, I remember everything." "What?" Oh Ming was shocked and looked at her. Yu Lily slightly raised the corner of her mouth, with sad pity in her eyes. "That night, Yu Lily who was trampled under your feet, came back." Oh Ming's heart was suddenly full of emotions. Her sparkling and beautiful peach blossom eyes were more like the calm blue sea, instantly surging with waves and splashing waves. "What?" Oh Ming looked at Yu Lily inside, pretending not to understand, and said seriously, "Don't make trouble, move the dresser a little bit and let me in." "I am not making trouble, don't you know very well, Oh Ming?" Yu Lily looked at him with pity in her eyes. "During this time, you have been very impatient. Is it very uncomfortable to be so cold to me?" "Yu Lily, don't say that." Oh Ming warned, pushed the door open, and leaned against the dresser. The dresser was shaking. Fortunately, everything on it had been put away by Yu Lily, otherwise it would have fallen to the ground. Yu Lily glanced at the dresser that was pushed and said, "I know, Oh Ming. Let's break up. It's good for both of us." Yu Lily. Oh Ming's heart was empty. Looking at her, he was a little scared. "Don't say that, okay? Listen to me. You have a fiancé, you have parents, and your mother likes Shen Manting very much, doesn't she? I know, you also like her, so don't say in front of me that you don't like her and hate her." Yu Lily looked at the front and smiled. "If you really don't like her and really hate her, you will not maintain this marriage." "Oh Ming, you are really hypocritical." Yu Lily looked at Oh Ming, reached out to the dresser, and said, "I have said what I want to say, and there is nothing else I want to say. If there is nothing else, I will go first." Oh Ming walked in, opened his hands, and held her in his arms. With great strength, Oh Ming buried his face in her neck. His heart was beating fast. With infinite fear, he said, "Don't go, Yu Lily. You can't." Yu Lily struggled for a while but found that she couldn't do anything about his strength. He stopped moving and sneered, "Do you mean to say that you want to have another breakup? Unfortunately, I'm not in the mood. I'm frigid." "Oh, it's all because of you. Have you forgotten?" Yu Lily's words were more hurtful than the last. Oh Ming felt as if his heart had been pierced, riddled with holes and dripping with blood. It was his fault. It was his fault. But he already knew he was wrong, didn't he? Oh Ming hugged her, unwilling to let go. His voice was hollow and hoarse as he asked, "Yu Lily, must you do this?" Yu Lily struggled for a moment, then closed her eyes and said, "Oh Ming, I'm tired of being a mistress. I'm just a mistress. To put it nicely, I'm a mistress. To put it bluntly, I'm a prostitute. Oh Ming, let me go." Oh Ming held her, and his heart was empty. She didn't make a fuss. She calmly described these words that could easily hurt him, which was more hurtful than when she was hysterical. It was also more desperate and helpless. Chapter 943. Yu Lily, I have never regarded you as my mistress. I really like you, and I want to marry you. Yu Lily, I want to give you a future. Oh Ming gently released her, held her shoulders, and looked at her. The blueprint I outlined for the future is centered on you. Without you, everything I have planned will not exist. Ha! Yu Lily looked at him with pity and gently touched his face with her hand. Yes, in your blueprint, you have a wife, a family, parents, and a mistress. Of course, I will be there. Her eyes were slightly red, but she didn't lose control as she had imagined. Oh Ming shook his head, looked at Yu Lily, and reached out to hold her hand. You know what I mean. Yu Lily, don't you know me? In your eyes, am I that kind of person? Yu Lily laughed out loud and replied, No one can understand you, Oh Ming. I've never understood you, and you've never understood me, have you? Looking at Oh Ming, Yu Lily gently kissed him on the cheek and said, I am tired, Oh Ming. Don't hurt each other anymore. You and I are people from two different worlds. If we are forced to be together, no one will be happy. No. Oh Ming held her with both hands, and his eyes were full of panic. No, no, where else can you go in Kingstown? Stay here. Just think of it as staying in a hotel. Calm down first. When you calm down, we will talk again, okay? Yu Lily looked at him. Oh Ming was trying so hard to make her stay. He was humble and begging for pity. Wasn't that how she imagined him to love her deeply and ask her to stay? However, Yu Lily didn't feel happy. Instead, she felt unspeakably sad. Looking at him, Yu Lily pursed her lips. Her eyes were red, and her eyelashes trembled. She chuckled and looked down. Oh Ming, Kingstown is really big, and your place is really good. But, I will not die if I leave you. No one could not survive without the other. Looking at him, Yu Lily's smile widened. Oh Ming's heart was empty, and he quickly explained, I didn't mean that, I know. Yu Lily interrupted him. It doesn't matter if that's what you mean. I know what I'm capable of. Between you and me, there has always been a gap that can't be crossed. There was in the past, and there is even more now. That's it. I'm leaving, Oh Ming. As she spoke, she gently pushed him away. Oh Ming's heart was filled with bitterness. It was as if something had pried it open. Fresh blood gushed out, revealing the deep grooves of the heart. Fresh blood spurted out along with the beating of the heart. She resolutely turned around, took out the suitcase, and quickly walked out of the room. It was as if Oh Ming had been drained of all his strength and soul. He stood there and didn't know what to do. Looking at Yu Lily's back, Oh Ming stood there like a marionette for a long, long time. Yu Lily took a taxi to the address Yi Qianqian had given her. When she arrived, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. The community where Yi Qianqian lived had access control. Hearing that Yu Lily had arrived, Yi Qianqian put on a coat and ran down. When she saw the big suitcase Yu Lily was carrying, she was stunned and said, Are you moving? She thought that Yu Lily wanted to stay with her for a day or two. Chapter 944. Yes, I won't live there in the future. Wow, really? Then let's live together. It's so lonely for me to live alone. I like you among the colleagues. Shan Yu is too silly. Pfft. Yu Lily chuckled. Okay, but is your place enough? It's enough. Why don't you go up and have a look? Yi Qianqian took the big suitcase from Yu Lily and walked into her house. Yi Qianqian got in the elevator and pressed the 40th floor. When Yu Lily saw the floor, she was a little surprised and said, Why is it so high? A little, but this place is close to the company. Have you noticed that it only takes about 20 minutes to walk there from here? I bought a bicycle, and it only takes about 10 minutes. I can also use it as my morning exercise every day. Isn't that great? Walking for more than 20 minutes, Yu Lily's lips twitched, but after entering Yi Qianqian's house, she felt a little amazed. She thought that a single person like Yi Qianqian would live in a single apartment or something like that. But after entering, she found that it was not the case at all. The layout here was much better than Yu Lily had imagined. The design style was modern and simple. The sofa in the living room was beautiful white. The paintings on the wall, the decoration, and the lighting were very high-end. And it was very big. There were 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, and the kitchen was very clean. This was simply tailor-made for sharing a house. Yu Lily was surprised. Do you live alone? Yes. Yi Qianqian was very satisfied with Yu Lily's surprised look. If you share a house with me in the future, there will be 2 people living in it. I won't have to stay alone in such a big empty room in the future. Did you rent this? Yu Lily asked. Well. It's my sister's. Wow, your sister is so rich. Yu Lily put down the suitcase and walked around. She found that the luxury of the decoration here was no less than the current level of the villa in Xi'an. Although it was not as good as the place where O Ming lived now, the sense of quality was very good. Yu Lily shook her head, sat on the sofa, and said, "Did your sister buy all this furniture?" "Yes, my sister is a star. Although she's only a B-list star now, she'll be very popular sooner or later." Then, she added, "It's only a matter of time." "What's your sister's name again?" Yu Lily remembered hearing her mention it before, but she had forgotten the name. Yi Qianqian pouted and said, "Yi Yuyu." "Yeah, it sounds like he's your biological son. Even his name is so similar." Yu Lily stood up from the sofa and stretched. "How much rent do I have to pay you in the future? Such a big house, and such good furniture." "Ah, I never thought about that." Yi Qianqian scratched her head and said, "Do you know how to cook?" "Yes, and my culinary skills are pretty good." Yu Lily raised her eyebrows proudly. Yi Qianqian was pleasantly surprised. She asked, "Really? Okay, then you can buy groceries and cook in the future. Take it as a deduction for the rent. How about it? That's it? Wouldn't it be too easy for me?" Chapter 945. Deal. After reaching an agreement, Yi Qianqian quickly helped Yu Lily clean up the room and then moved in. In the other room, because Yi Yuyu occasionally came back to stay, the bedding was still there. Yi Qianqian just took out the things inside and let Yu Lily sleep directly. However, Yu Lily lay in this completely unfamiliar environment, closed her eyes for a long time, and couldn't successfully fall asleep. Opening her eyes, Yu Lily lay on the bed, and her mind was a mess. She didn't know what she was thinking, but there was a lot of information, a lot of ideas, flying around, and finally all mixed into a mess. Climbing up, Yu Lily picked up her digital screen, plugged it in, held a pen and began to draw lines. Just at the entrance of the community, a stretched Lincoln was parked. A man held a cigarette between his long fingers, and the smoke rose slowly, filling the whole car with the smell of tobacco. After looking at the community for a long time, O Ming started the car and drove back. Sooner or later, he would take her back. As his only woman. Maybe it was because she couldn't recognize the bed, or maybe it was because she was in a bad mood that she couldn't sleep. Yu Lily stayed up late to paint, and she didn't feel sleepy until 4 or 5 o'clock. The next day was Sunday, and Yu Lily slept until 10 o'clock. When she woke up naturally, she was still confused when she saw the surroundings. However, she soon remembered her current situation. She had broken up with O Ming, a little sad, but more relaxed. She lifted the quilt and got up. Obviously, Yi Qianqian hadn't gotten up yet. After washing up, Yu Lily went out to buy groceries and find the way. When she came back, Yi Qianqian hadn't gotten up yet. However, there was no door to enter. Yu Lily was a little nervous. Yu Lily rang the doorbell, but no one answered for a long time. She picked up the phone and dialed Yi Qianqian's number. It rang for a long time before it was picked up. Hearing that there was a response, Yu Lily pressed the doorbell twice, and Yi Qianqian immediately understood. Hanging up the phone, Yu Lily heard the sound of slippers coming from inside. After Yi Qianqian opened the door, she lazily went back and continued to sleep. When Yu Lily finished cooking, it was almost 12 o'clock. Yi Qianqian happened to wake up. She rubbed her eyes and washed up. When she came out, she smelled the aroma of food. When Yu Lily saw her, she waved at her and said, "Come wash your hands and eat." Yi Qianqian was shocked. She ran to the dining room and said, "You're amazing. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I can't believe I can still eat this kind of food. I don't have to eat fast food." Yu Lily scooped a bowl of rice for her and deliberately threatened her with a straight face. "Go wash your hands." "All right." Yi Qianqian quickly ran over to wash her hands and quickly came back. Holding the soup that Yu Lily had prepared, she exclaimed in surprise, "This is great. Lily, did you learn your cooking from your mother? If your cooking is so good, your mother must be even better." When Yu Lily heard that, she shrugged and said, "I don't have a mother, so I don't know, but I don't think she's as good as me, right?" Yi Qianqian paused and said apologetically, "Your mother passed away." Chapter 946. Yu Lily shrugged indifferently and smiled with a relaxed and happy face. Yi Qianqian felt like biting off her tongue and said with a guilty face, "I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Yu Lily felt a little funny when she saw her like that. She reached out and pushed her and said, "What are you doing?" "It's nothing. I was abandoned by my parents at the gate of the orphanage when I was born. I've been used to it for so many years. Don't mind it too much." But it was Yu Lily's indifferent and relaxed look that made Yi Qianqian feel a little distressed. But Yi Qianqian was also very curious and asked, "Can I ask you a few questions? I've been curious for a long time." Well, Yu Lily took a sip of soup and nodded. "Go ahead." As Yi Qianqian spoke, she chose her words carefully. She coughed lightly and said, "Let me make it clear first. I'm not targeting you. I'm just curious. What I'm saying is, how did you survive without parents? In the orphanage, there should be many people who adopt children, right?" Yu Lily shook her head and didn't care. She said, "There are families who will adopt children, but many families in Kingstown will only adopt boys. How can they adopt a girl, who is a waste of money?" At that time, girls were not valuable. Even if one or two were adopted, they were the kind that looked more obedient. I've been straightforward since I was a child. I don't want to be adopted. I heard that after being adopted, I have to be a nanny or a maid. It's better to live freely in the orphanage." Yi Qianqian nodded with a look of understanding and said, "So that's the case. It's a pity. If any family adopts you, they will be very happy and very happy." While eating, Yu Lily smiled and said, "You're wrong. I've been particularly annoying since I was a child. They say that I'm good at pretending. I'm good at talking to people and pretending to be obedient. That's why they all isolate me." Then she said helplessly, "Children are like this. They especially hate children who are liked by adults." Although many years had passed, many people's views on Yu Lily had not changed. Yi Qianqian felt a little more sympathetic. If an orphan didn't pretend to be obedient, who would like her? Yu Lily met Yi Qianqian's eyes while eating and waved her hand. "Have you never seen a beautiful woman before?" Yi Qianqian snorted and said, "I just sympathized with you." "You really? You destroyed all my sympathy with one sentence. Great. Next time, I have to pretend to be more pitiful. Maybe I can get some candy." Humph. After dinner, Yi Qianqian took the initiative to wash the dishes, and Yu Lily went straight into the bedroom. Yu Lily was a little sleepy because she hadn't slept much last night. However, she certainly couldn't sleep now. Turning on the digital screen, Yu Lily picked up the pen and continued to draw. Yu Lily's door was ajar. When Yi Qianqian saw that the door wasn't closed, she called out, "Can I come in?" Without raising her head, Yu Lily replied, "Come in." Chapter 947. Hearing that, Yu Lily unconsciously bent her lips, nodded and said, "Yes, it's very useful." Yi Qianqian glanced at it. Yu Lily was still drawing the frame lines, and there were only a few rough lines on the screen. Yi Qianqian glanced at it and said, "You are also drawing comics. Which website did you sign up with?" "It's also under the O group." Yu Lily did not look up and quickly drew the lines. "Oh, OU?" Yi Qianqian nodded, patted her on the shoulder and said, "Well, the signing threshold of OU is very high, and only experienced artists will sign it. What's your pen name? Do you want to know? Yu Lily looked up at her and smiled brightly. Seeing her like this, Yi Qianqian despised her and said, "Don't be so mysterious. Tell me, what's your name? If I tell you, you'll definitely be shocked." Yu Lily gave her a heads up. Yi Qianqian glared at her, snorted coldly, and said, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. I often go to OU's comics, and I can recognize those popular comics at a glance. Let me see your drawing style." "Okay." Yu Lily stepped back, and Yi Qianqian reached out and swiped a few times on the digital screen. When she drew on it, there were already a few squares on it that had been drawn and filled in, and the scene looked very exciting. Yi Qianqian was stunned when she saw the character. Looking up, there were already 5 or 6 squares of the comic, and the plot was the 3rd episode of Love Transaction. "My God!" Yi Qianqian shouted and couldn't believe it. "Is this Love Transaction? My God, who are you? Are you Li Xiaoyu?" Yu Lily looked up and smiled. Looking at her expression, she quickly moved her eyes to the digital screen in front of her and pulled the picture back. Yi Qianqian's face was full of shock, and her eyes were full of disbelief. "Oh my God, say something. I actually saw Li Xiaoyu alive. It can't be true, right?" Yu Lily laughed, pushed her gently and said, "When did Li Xiaoyu die?" "Yu Lily, Li Xiaoyu, oh, why didn't I think of it?" Yi Qianqian pounded her palms with a look of regret on her face. "A few days ago, the people in the company were celebrating for me. Oh my God, the author was sitting right in front of me. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing." As he spoke, he subconsciously tried to recall if he had ever offended Yu Lily since they started working together. Then, he recalled his chat history with Li Xiaoyu. God, fortunately, she was kind and had not offended anyone. Yu Lily laughed even more happily. She pushed her and shouted, "Get lost. It's not that exaggerated." When Yi Qianqian heard that, her blood boiled. She grabbed Yu Lily's arm excitedly and shouted, "Yes. Isn't it that exaggerated? Ah." Yi Qianqian almost hit the wall and said, "Can you give me an autograph? Li Xiaoyu's autograph." "Yu Lily, hey, I can't. I haven't recovered yet." Yi Qianqian patted her face and looked at the lines on the digital screen. She pushed Yu Lily gently, blushed, and urged, draw quickly." Yu Lily said, "I don't want to draw. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." Chapter 948. You don't know that you are now the #1 artist on our website. You are a god. Yi Qianqian was getting more and more excited as she spoke. "When I heard that you lived in the city center, I was shocked. I wanted to find you several times, but I couldn't find an excuse. Oh my God, now you actually came to me." "Ah!" Yu Lily looked at her speechlessly and helplessly. She held her forehead and said, "What do you mean by coming to me? Of course, a goddess like you doesn't know the admiration we feel when we see you. Oh my God, you've been hanging out in front of me every day." Yi Qianqian grabbed her hand that was resting on her forehead. Her eyes were shining as she asked, "But, is this really your first work? The style is so mature." "I don't think so." "Yes, it's my first work." Yu Lily's hair stood on end from Su Qingsang's grip. She subconsciously pulled her hand back and explained, "Maybe it's because I like to draw illustrations and the like, so it's not particularly strenuous for me to draw on." Yi Qianqian shook her head and waved her hand. Illustration and comics are completely different concepts. It is like novels and essays. How can they be compared? Just the setting of the story and the style are different from the flirtatious bitch outside. But, it is frustrating to compare people with others. I saw the traffic of your comic a few days ago. When you pay the royalties, it will at least be 6 figures, Yu Lily suddenly choked on her saliva. She looked at Yi Qianqian in front of her with her eyes wide open. She said, "No way, so much?" "Yes, yes, now you finally know. A new website like ours also has a promising future." Yi Qianqian looked envious. She walked to Yu Lily's bed and threw herself down. She said, "But why can't my painting be popular? I used to paint, as a potential excavator. You are greater than a painter. Don't be discouraged. In the future, there will definitely be more powerful painters. When that time comes, your commission will also be huge." "That's right. Your royalties are high, and my commission is also high. Thinking about it this way, I don't feel so depressed anymore. Come, let's go shopping." Yu Lily looked at Yi Qianqian with a sleepy look and said, "I'm so sleepy. I didn't sleep long last night. I had to go to bed after painting." "Okay, then you sleep for 2 hours. We'll go shopping later." "Yu Lily, it's 1 o'clock now. Go to sleep. I'll wake you up at 3 o'clock. Big sister, I don't have money. I haven't paid my salary yet. I'll lend it to you. Anyway, I'll get my salary tomorrow, and I'll get my royalties the day after tomorrow. You little rich lady, let's go." In the end, Yu Lily couldn't resist Yi Qianqian's tyranny. She didn't even sleep and went shopping with Yi Qianqian. The places that Yi Qianqian visited were different from the places that she and Su Qianxi had visited before. Relatively speaking, the places that Yi Qianqian visited were more cost-effective. Many of the styles of clothes were particularly beautiful, but the prices were not expensive. Yu Lily and Yi Qianqian shopped for the whole afternoon. Yi Qianqian returned with a full load, but Yu Lily only picked a few that she particularly liked. Chapter 949. Tired from walking, Yi Qianqian found a dessert shop and sat down. They each ordered a drink. When Yu Lily was drinking, she inadvertently saw a familiar figure. Li Jinnan? What? Seeing Li Jinnan in such a place, Yu Lily felt like she was in a dream. The consumption here was above average. Although the environment was not bad, generally speaking, a rich man like Li Jinnan would not come to such a place. What made Yu Lily most surprised was that there was a woman standing next to Li Jinnan. He was wrapped in white clothes from head to toe, and a red scarf covered his face. He wore a hat and sunglasses, and it was airtight. Li Jinnan pulled her without gentleness and said, "Come on, pick." Seeing Li Jinnan like this, Yu Lily almost spat out the drink. Is this the attitude of a girl? Sure enough. His brother is so cold, and this guy is no exception. Yi Qianqian followed Yu Lily's gaze. When she saw the woman, she was a little surprised. "Hey, Yu? Yu?" Yu Lily looked over, and her lips twitched. "How can you recognize me? Are you mistaken?" "Well, it should be. Yu said that she has to shoot today, so she is very busy. But who is that man? He is so handsome." Yi Qianqian looked at Li Jinnan with her eyes shining. Wow, he is like a domineering president coming out of a comic. Not only Yu Lily and Yi Qianqian were looking at them, but many people in the dessert shop were staring at them. Yi Yu covered her face with a scarf and struggled. Her face was hot, and she whispered, "President Li, I am joking." Li Jinnan heard her words and chuckled. His eyes were as calm as water, with a little cold light in them. "I am sorry, I never joke. Choose." Yi Yu lowered her head, turned to face Li Jinnan, and said, "If you have anything to say, let's go out and talk. There are so many people, you also know how to be shy." Li Jinnan sneered, turned around, and walked out with Yi Yu. He did not have the slightest pity for her. Tut, Yu Lily looked at him with sympathy in her eyes. Yi Qianqian stood up and said, "The more I look at her, the more she looks like my sister. Let's go and see." Without waiting for Yu Lili to stand up, he followed Li Jinnan. Yi Qianqian chased after her, picked up her cell phone, and called Yi Yuyu. Soon, the woman in front picked up her phone. "Hello, sis." When Yi Qianqian heard his voice, a flame of anger flared up in her heart. She asked, "Didn't you say that you were going to film today?" Yi Yuyu was shocked. She turned her head and saw his eyes full of deep meaning. She pretended that nothing had happened and said, "Yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first." "Look behind you!" Yi Qianqian shouted. Yi Yuyu's body froze. She turned her head to look. Yi Qianqian strode up and reached out to pull Yi Yuyu. She pointed at Li Jinnan and asked, "Who is this?" "Your friend?" With obvious anger in his voice, he pulled Yi Yuyu back, stared at Li Jinnan, and said, "What are you doing? What's so great about being handsome? Even I can't bear to look at my sister. Who do you think you are?" Chapter 950. Hearing the word boss, Yi Qianqian immediately lowered her shoulders and shrank her neck. Looking at Li Jinnan's perfect face, she immediately smiled and said softly, "I see. Oh, why didn't you say so earlier? It's not good to have such a big misunderstanding, right?" Yi Qianqian gently pushed Yi Yuyu back and said, "Boss, do you want to take my sister to work? Go ahead. It doesn't matter if you can be more rude. Yi Yuyu is a masochist. The more rude you are, the happier she will be. Just remember to send her back at night, or her husband will be worried." "Husband?" Li Jinnan's almond-shaped eyes were as calm as still water. If one looked closely, they would be able to detect the subtle ripples. In a low voice, he asked, "You're married?" While speaking, he subconsciously looked at the ring finger of her left hand. There was no ring. Yi Yuyu lowered her head and did not speak. Seeing this, Yi Qianqian felt that something was wrong and covered her mouth. "Did I say something wrong?" Yi Yuyu walked to Yi Qianqian and said, "President, I am married, and I have been married for more than 2 months." Li Jinnan laughed and looked at Yi Yuyu. His eyes, which were as calm as the wind and the moon, were filled with a trace of a smile. "Do you think I am stupid?" Yu Lili ran up, and Li Jinnan saw her at a glance and was a little surprised. Yu Lili felt a little embarrassed, smiled and said, "Long time no see, Third Master Li." Li Jinnan looked at her with a smile and nodded. Yes, long time no see. However, it was obvious that he did not want to stay any longer and reached out to pull Yi Yuyu. Yi Yuyu struggled a little, looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "Sister." Yi Qianqian didn't know Li Jinnan, but Yu Lili had heard a little about his character. This guy didn't care much about many things, but now he was like this to Yi Yuyu. There must be another reason. Li Jinnan's calm eyes darkened, and he said, "Let's go." It was only one word, but it was with a majesty that could not be disobeyed. It was obvious that Yi Yuyu was unwilling, but she still followed him. Yi Qianqian sensed that something was amiss and ran forward to block his way. However, when she met Li Jinnan's indifferent gaze, she felt inexplicably nervous and guilty. Looking at him, Yi Qianqian gathered her courage and said, "Where are you taking my sister?" "What for? Can't you see that she's unwilling?" "Work." Li Jinnan narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look at Yi Yuyu. He slowly said, "Since you've taken the initiative to take the first step, the second and third steps will have to be completed by you. After all, last night it was you." Yi Yuyu was annoyed. She reached her hand out to cover his mouth. Embarrassed, she demanded, "Shut up." Facing Yi Qianqian's surprised gaze, Yi Yuyu felt her face heat up. She pulled Li Jinnan and shouted, "Go, go, go." She pulled Li Jinnan along, and they quickly descended the escalator. Yi Qianqian looked at this scene and was a little stunned. She turned to look at Yu Lili and asked, "Do you know this man?" "Yes, he is the grandson of the old general of the Li family, Li Sun. He is now the younger brother of the president of the LS Group, and also the president of the new brokerage company NC Entertainment in Kingstown. He is one of the former majors of the Wuxia army and has now retired. Chapter 951. This is Li Jinan? Yes. Yu Lily quickly withdrew her gaze and looked at Yi Qianqian. Let's go back. Oh my God. Yi Qianqian looked regretful. I can't believe I don't know him. Oh my God, he's so handsome. I was just saying that he looked a little familiar. He looks a little fairer than Bai Qi, so that's why I don't know him, right? Yu Lily couldn't help but laugh. She pulled her and said, yes, of course, you will be much whiter after coming out of the army. Let's go back to eat. I'm starving. Yi Qianqian was still in shock. Looking at the direction of Li Jinnan's departure, she couldn't express her regret. How can my sister meet such an excellent man? Brother Luo'an, Li Jinnan. Brother Luo'an? When Yu Lily heard the name, she turned her head and looked over. Who is Brother Luo'an? Ah, you'll be scared to death. Brother Luo'an's full name is Shen Luo'an. He is one of the 3 young masters in the capital and the husband of my sister Yi Yuyu. You know Shen Luo'an. Do you know Shen Manting? Yu Lily looked at Yi Qianqian. Shen Manting? Who? Yi Qianqian was confused. Is there such a person? Yu Lily thought for a moment and said, it's the woman who gave me the little furball last time. That's Shen Manting, Shen Luo'an's sister. Oh. I've heard of her, but I haven't seen her. After all, she was only recognized a few years ago. I went to college in Kingstown and rarely go back to the capital, so I don't know. Didn't you see your sister when she got married? Yu Lily felt a little strange. She was recognized a few years ago. That is to say, Shen Manting was lost before, and now she is recognized. Yes, it is said that when her mother was pregnant, she suffered from depression and ran out when she was about to give birth. Later, she gave birth in the winter outside. The mother died, and the child was lost. I heard that it was a snowy day in Kingstown in 50 years. No way. Yu Lily felt a little strange. So dramatic? It's practically a real-life version of a manga. That's right, but it's true. That Shen Manting was recognized by the old lady of the Shen family. She saw that Shen Manting looked like her mother, so she directly brought her back. I don't know if she was impersonating her. Yi Qianqian touched her belly and said, I'm so hungry. Let's go eat. Yes. Yu Lily randomly picked a restaurant and walked in. She continued to ask Yi Qianqian, if Shen Manting is discovered not to be a member of the Shen family, does that mean she is no longer the daughter of the Shen family? Of course. Who would want to raise someone who has nothing to do with them? I heard that when Shen Manting returned to the Shen family, she was ostracized for a long time. In the end, old Mrs. Shen insisted that she stay, so she had no choice but to let her stay. Yi Qianqian flipped through the menu and called the waiter to order. Yu Lily frowned and said nothing. Since this was the case, the Shens might have long known that Shen Manting was not a member of their family, but they still kept her and got engaged to O Ming. Chapter 952. As Yu Lily thought about it, she suddenly felt that she was terrible. She actually wanted to pull Shen Manting down, however, she was not reconciled. Yu Lily lowered her eyes. Yi Qianqian had already ordered the dishes. Looking at Yu Lily, she suddenly came over and asked, why are you so interested in Shen Manting? Did she have a grudge against you? Almost. Yu Lily drank a glass of water. She bullied me once, and I bullied her once. That's even. Moreover, Shen Manting was bullied more miserably by her. After all, she still installed a monitoring device in her mobile phone. However, in the war of fighting for O Ming, she lost. It was a crushing defeat. Yu Lily's mood suddenly became a lot lower. Yi Qianqian looked at her and didn't say anything. The two of them had a good meal. After returning home, Yu Lily painted on the digital screen and went to bed before 10 o'clock. However, Yi Qianqian's heart was always not very calm. Thinking of Yi Yu's state and situation today, she picked up the mobile phone and called Yi Yu. However, no one answered. Yi Yu looked at the phone that kept ringing and squinted at the man sitting next to her with a gloomy face. Li Jinan slowly poured her a glass of red wine and said slowly, "Take it. What are you afraid of?" However, the more nonchalant Li Jinan appeared, the more flustered Yi Yu felt. Looking at him, Yi Yu straightened up and said, "Mr. Li, I think this is a misunderstanding. Last night was purely an accident. We are all adults. Isn't it normal to do this kind of thing?" While Yi Yu was talking, she suddenly saw Li Jinan stand up. She was shocked, but still pretended to be calm and looked at him. "And I have." However, Li Jinan had already walked over here. Yi Yu almost bit her tongue. Li Jinan came over and looked down at her. He was wearing a straight long windbreaker and only a shirt inside. His healthy figure was faintly discernible. Yi Yu couldn't help but be attracted by him, but she quickly looked away and said, "I am married. You should know my husband." He. "Why are you taking off your clothes?" Yi Yu roared. The distance between him and Yi Yu was less than half a meter. Just as Li Jinan moved, his unique scent wafted over. It was unfamiliar and pleasant. Yi Yu blushed and glared up at him. Li Jinan glanced at her lightly and didn't seem to feel anything wrong. He said, "It's a little hot. If you're hot, go somewhere else and take it off." Why are you taking it off in front of me?" Yi Yu stuttered, but she quickly pretended to be calm and said, "Is it because you can't help but want to flirt when you see me?" Li Jinan raised his eyebrows and leaned over. Yi Yu immediately shrank back and warned him with a red face, "If you come any closer, I'll kick your d*ck." When Li Jinan heard that, his lips curled into a smile. Without fear, he took a step forward and said, "Why don't you give it a try? I'm serious. If you come any closer, I'll kick your d*ck." "Ah, what are you doing?" Yi Yu waved her hands in an attempt to push him away, but he held her hand. Chapter 953. Yi Yu was even more annoyed. She pushed him and shouted, "You are the one who is shy. So, you're not shy?" I. Yi Yu wanted to refute, but she didn't know how to refute for a while. She was so angry that she shouted, "Bastard, just say what you want to say. Is it fun to tease me like this? Interesting." Li Jinan straightened up and loosened the button of his shirt, revealing his healthy lines. He looked down at her and said, "I just want to ask you a few questions. First, are you really married?" "Yes." Yi Yu took out a ring from her bag. It was a big diamond, very shiny. "This is my wedding ring. However, it is a secret marriage. I can't let others know that I am married. My husband also thinks so." Li Jinan's eyes darkened. He reached out and snatched the ring from her hand without a word. He held it in his hand. Yi Yu was annoyed. She stood up and shouted, "What are you doing? Give it back to me. The design is too vulgar and ugly. I'm confiscating it." Li Jinan put the ring into his trouser pocket. Yi Yu frowned, then rushed toward him, reached into his trouser pocket, and shouted, "Give it back to me." Li Jinan reached out and easily grasped her hand in his. He took the opportunity to pull her into his arms and pull her into his embrace. Yi Yu suddenly froze and looked up at him. Li Jinnan's skin was so good that it made her hair stand on end. He looked at her with a pair of calm eyes and said, "Show me the marriage certificate." Yi Yuyu wanted to slap him to death. She roared, "Which psychopath will carry a marriage certificate with him? Is there something wrong with him?" Li Jinnan chuckled and moved closer to her. He said, "If I were married, I would." Unfortunately, there was no such thing for him to carry now. Yi Yuyu was a little annoyed and wanted to hit him with her head, but he held her head with one hand. There was a smile in Li Jinnan's eyes, but there was a faint threat in it. Yi Yuyu suddenly froze and did not dare to move. Li Jinnan was very pleased with her tactfulness. He calmly said, "Very good. Behave yourself." Yi Yuyu felt that her dignity had been challenged. She puffed up her cheeks and was about to yell at him when he interrupted her. "Secondly, you said that you've been married for more than 2 months, but you seduced me last night." "I didn't seduce you." Yi Yuyu roared. She was going crazy. "Then what is seduction?" Li Jinnan held the back of her head and narrowed his eyes. "You drugged me and even laid naked on my bed. Isn't that an unspoken rule?" Yi Yuyu felt a little annoyed. She was so angry that her eyes were red. She said, "I have said many times that I didn't put the drug." Li Jinnan narrowed his eyes and thought back to last night. It was the wrap-up party for the new movie that NC had invested in. As the boss, of course, Li Jinnan had to be present. After drinking a little too much with the crew and the director, Li Jinnan decided to let everyone stay in the hotel. The hotel was a 5-star hotel under Li Sicheng's name. Li Jinnan directly stayed in the presidential suite on the top floor. All the staff were very happy. At that time, Li Jinnan had a fever all over his body. He originally thought it was because of the strong aftereffect of the wine. Chapter 954. Moreover, she was naked, and her mouth was making unbearable sounds. At the same time, his already feverish body became even more shameful. Although Li Jinnan had never had a woman before, he had heard a little about it. "This woman wants to sleep with me?" With a sullen face, Li Jinnan walked forward and lifted the blanket that was covering her body. However, what entered his eyes was a vibrant fragrance that made his blood boil. Yi Yuyu seemed to be aware of his arrival. She opened her eyes and wrapped herself around him. Uncomfortable, Li Jinnan was also uncomfortable. He wanted to push her away, but his body was stiff. Yi Yuyu's figure was not particularly good, but her proportion was very good. The reason why he had never had a woman before was at least because Li Jinnan did not have that desire. Now that it was like this, Li Jinnan had no intention of refusing. After all, he was 29 years old. He had a good impression of this girl. She was quite obedient. Li Jinnan pushed her down, but just as he was about to enter, he noticed an obvious barrier. He reached out and pushed her slightly. He asked, "First time?" Yi Yuyu did not answer, but responded with a very charming and jerky twist. A night of indulgence. The next day, Li Jinnan was awakened by the sound of her killing a pig. Yi Yuyu curled up in the quilt and shrank back in horror. She screamed again and again. You beast, you dare to touch me, I." Yi Yuyu hugged the quilt and cried out, "Beast, beast, bastard, I didn't expect you to be such a person." Li Jinnan was speechless. His head was a little painful. Li Jinnan rubbed his temples and went forward to cover her mouth. Yi Yuyu closed her eyes, and tears began to stream down her cheeks. She cried her heart out. Li Jinnan's face was even more sullen. He whispered, "This is not interesting. You drugged me and took off all your clothes. You are my woman. Now, the thief is crying thief?" When Yi Yuyu heard that, she was furious. She took his hand down and shouted, "Damn pervert, damn beast, disgusting. You took advantage of me when I was drunk, and you have the nerve to say such things. You, Li Jinnan covered her mouth with a gloomy face. What do you mean? Want money? Or a movie role? Just say it. There's no need to do this. A female celebrity sleeping with her boss. Are these the only requirements? When Li Jinnan accepted it the night before, he had already mentally prepared himself. When Yi Yu heard those words, she felt even more humiliated. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she bawled. Tears and snot smeared all over Li Jinnan's hand, and his face darkened. B****. Yi Yu hugged the blanket and wailed. Li Jinnan was infuriated. With a dark expression, he said, "If you continue to pretend, you won't get anything." When Yi Yu heard that, she flew into a rage. She lunged forward to hit him, but he clamped her hands down and pinned her beneath his body. Li Jinnan squinted at her and said, "Playing hard to get? Want to do it again?" "I." Yi Yu sobbed, gritted her teeth, and turned her face away. She said, "You can go. I'll just take it that I was ked by a dog." "Are you calling me a dog?" Li Jinnan almost went crazy. "I never expected you to be that kind of person. How dare you call a thief a thief?" As he spoke, he pulled Yi Yu up. "Go get the surveillance footage." Chapter 955. However, when he went to the security room to check the surveillance footage, he found that it was Yi Yu who stumbled into the room. She was unbuttoning her clothes as she walked. After about an hour, Li Jinnan finally walked in. In between, Li Jinnan also had a sufficient alibi. Yi Yu was stunned. She frowned and tried to recall. In her mind, there seemed to be a voice tempting her. "Go to room VIP 888. Go inside. Someone can help you." But, who? Yi Yu couldn't remember. She frowned, but she was sure that it was not Li Jinnan. Li Jinnan looked at the screen and turned to look at Yi Yu. Yi Yu felt guilty and shrank her neck. "Now, how do you explain it?" Li Jinnan took a step forward, and Yi Yu took a step back. Her face was full of fear. Li Jinnan's usually calm eyes suddenly became turbulent. He looked at Yi Yu with deep warning. "Now that the evidence is conclusive, you first drugged me, and then went to my room in advance to wait for me? Then, as soon as I went in, you jumped on me. Am I right?" Yi Yu was so angry that her face turned red. She shouted, "I am not that thirsty." "Then, who was the person who hugged me last night and said that she wanted me?" Li Jinnan quickly asked. The people in the security room were dumbfounded. That was explosive. This is too exciting. Yi Yu's face turned even redder. She raised her chest and shouted, "It must be because you coveted my beauty and wanted to do something to me for a long time, right? I didn't expect you to look like a dog. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person." Bah! The pressure around Li Jinnan suddenly dropped. He took a step forward. His face was dangerously cold. He stared at her with his phoenix eyes. "Say that again?" Yi Yu cowered. Her back hit the wall. She bowed her head and said, "I was wrong." The security guards in the security room immediately laughed. Yi Yu's face was burning. She wanted to raise her head and say something to save her dignity. However, when she met Li Jinnan's eyes, she immediately became timid. She whispered, "Can we go out first?" Li Jinnan's face softened a little, and he straightened up. Yi Yu immediately pushed him away and ran out. Li Jinnan turned his head and looked at the people in the security room. He narrowed his eyes and warned, "If what happened today goes out." "No, don't worry, third young master, we will never say a word." The security guards nodded and swore. After receiving the affirmation, Li Jinan stepped out and followed closely behind her. Soon, the two of them walked out together. Yi Yuyu endured the discomfort in her legs and quickly walked out of the hotel. When she looked back, she found that Li Jinan was still following her. She was shocked and shouted, "What do you want to do? I should be the one asking you that. I need to calm down. You want to run away just like that?" Li Jinan put his hands into his coat pockets and looked at her. Yi Yuyu was going crazy. She roared, "What do you want then? I'm hungry. Let's eat." Li Jinan looked at her and said, "Your treat. I didn't bring any money." "Then it's my treat, let's go." Li Jinan pulled Yi Yuyu over and looked around. His eyes darkened. Someone was following them. He should be in existence similar to a private detective. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so vigilant. Chapter 956. After getting into the car, Yi Yuyu said she wanted to eat dessert. Li Jinan randomly found a shopping mall and went in. Yi Yuyu looked at Li Jinan, who was obviously very unhappy, and said weakly, "It's really not me, Third Master Li. You know I don't have the guts to do such a thing when you see me being so cowardly, right?" Li Jinan listened and said seriously, "You are very cowardly." Yi Yuyu felt like an arrow was shot in her heart. She raised her eyes and glared at him. Li Jinnan's face was very close to hers, and Yi Yuyu's heart was beating faster. Her face was getting redder and redder. Li Jinnan looked at her and asked, "Nervous?" "No. I'm not nervous." "No way." Yi Yuyu's heart was about to jump out of her chest. She looked at Li Jinnan's face and swallowed. Li Jinnan leaned forward slightly and easily pressed her against the wall. He asked, "What about this?" Yi Yuyu's face was even redder. Her eyes stared at the red lips in front of her, and her heart was beating fast. Yi Yuyu pursed her lips and did not speak. Li Jinnan slightly narrowed his eyes and lowered his head to her lips. Yi Yuyu saw through his intention at a glance. She immediately turned her head and pushed him hard, shouting, "GM Li, I am really married. My husband is Shenluo-an." Shenluo-an? Li Jinan felt that the name was inexplicably familiar. After thinking about it, he realized who this person was. Looking at Yi Yuyu in surprise, Li Jinan raised his eyebrows and said bluntly, "I have never heard of Shenluo-an's marriage. I said it's a secret marriage, a secret marriage. Let's keep a low profile when we get married." "Well." Li Jinan thought for a moment, shook the red wine in his hand, and handed it to Yi Yuyu. "Have a drink?" "No, I have to go back. It's too late. It's very dangerous to be with a man, especially a beautiful and sexy woman like me. If I drink wine, I can't guarantee what you will do to me. I must be careful." Yi Yuyu said seriously. Li Jinan was silent for a moment. When Yi Yuyu saw that, she stood up and tried to walk out. Li Jinan slammed the glass on the table. Yi Yuyu froze on the spot. Yi Yuyu was terrified. She stood there and asked, "What?" "I haven't finished my second question." "Go ahead and ask." Yi Yuyu turned her head and glared at him. "Last night was your first time, right?" It was not a question, but a statement. The obvious obstruction, the eye-catching red stain, and the look on her face, as if her parents had died, made Li Jinan certain that it was her first time. At the mention of that, Yi Yuyu almost burst into tears again. She looked at him with reddened eyes. When Li Jinan saw that, he was even more certain. He narrowed his eyes and laughed coldly. "Since you've already been married for more than 2 months, why would there be a first? Is your man incompetent?" Yi Yuyu's initially composed expression crumbled in an instant. Chapter 957. When Li Jinnan heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. Looking at her back, his eyes were full of sarcasm. It's also my first time, Li Jinnan said helplessly. It seems that I'm at a disadvantage. Li Jinnan picked up the glass of red wine and took a sip. Picking up the phone, Li Jinnan swiped through the address book, found Luo Zhan's number, and dialed it. Luo Zhan was playing games when he suddenly received a call. He was a little annoyed. But after seeing the caller, he felt a little surprised. Third brother Li. Picking up the phone, Luo Zhan didn't wait for him to speak first and teased, "Oh, what kind of wind is blowing? Even the third brother Li came here. What's the matter?" Li Jinnan heard the teasing, but he was not annoyed. He said, "Brother Luo, how do you know that I have something to ask you for help?" "Well, you two brothers are the same. If there is nothing, will you come back to me?" The answer was, of course, impossible. "So what do you want?" "Well, I don't know anyone in the National Marriage Bureau, so I have to ask you for help." "You want to get married?" Luo Zhan was interested. "Who is the partner? A man or a woman?" Li Jinnan said. "If it is a man, my grandfather will strangle me before my father kills me." "Ha ha ha. Who is it?" "Oh, the third brother Li has grown up." "Tell me, who is the partner? What's her name? How old is she?" "These are not important. I want you to help me find out if this woman is married." Luo Zhan was stunned. "No way, you actually like a married woman?" "It's just a possibility. I suspect she is lying to me." "What the hell, do you like her?" "Not really." Li Jinnan put down the red wine glass in his hand and said, "I just slept with her. I can't say that I like her, but I feel good." Oh, the third brother Li is also enlightened. He actually went to sleep with a woman. "Okay, name and ID number, I will help you." "Well, wait a minute, let me check it. Do you know who he is married to?" "You can tell me the name." "Yi Yuyu, Shen Luo. Okay, wait a minute." Luo Zhan's fingers quickly jumped on the keyboard and exclaimed, "Hey, isn't this guy the scientist in the capital?" "It seems so." Li Jinnan also heard a little about Shen Luo An's identity. "Yes, Yi Yuyu and Shen Luo An are husband and wife, and they registered their marriage in August." "Really?" Li Jinnan frowned and suddenly thought of something. He reached into his trouser pocket and took out a ring. Suddenly, he thought of something and took it. And put, Jinnan feated. It was very valuable. Was this ring really their wedding ring? It. "Brother, I. "You, he said, Li, you, up, it, lut, Li." Chapter 958. These two brothers are the same. They deserve to be beaten. Luo Zhan was so angry that he threw his phone away. He suddenly remembered that he hadn't finished the game yet. When he went back to check, he had been reported. He wailed, "Damn it, I'm so sorry." Yi Yuyu went out of Li Jinnan's villa and quickly went out to take a taxi. But when the car started, she suddenly realized that her wedding ring was still with Li Jinnan. Yi Yuyu was a little angry, but she didn't have the courage to go back. What if Li Jinnan felt that it didn't matter if he did it once or twice and forced her to do it with him? What should I do? It's too dangerous. While Yi Yuyu was struggling, she heard the phone ring again. It was her sister, Yi Qianqian. She picked up the phone. "Hello, sister." Yi Qianqian heard her voice and was slightly relieved. She asked, "Where are you? Are you okay? Have you gone home?" "Well, I'm in the car." "Hey, you have to be careful. It's not easy for you to get married to brother Luo An." Don't make any trouble. You know how much the old lady of the Shen family hates you. Yi Yu also felt uncomfortable. She nodded and said, I know, sister. There won't be a next time. Yi Qianqian was not a fool. When she heard what Li Jinan said today, she vaguely seemed to guess something. She asked, last night, were you with that Li Jinan? Reflexively, Yi Yu immediately replied, no. However, after saying it, she felt that her reaction seemed to be too much. She calmed down and said, no, how could I be with him? He is the boss of our company. Last night, the movie I starred in was finished. Although it was only a supporting role, I still had a performance, right? So I just drank some wine with him. That's all. Really? Yi Qianqian obviously didn't believe it. Yi Yu's heart was pounding, but she said with certainty, yes, it's true. When Yi Qianqian heard this, she nodded and said, you're not a child anymore. You have to know what you can do and what you can't do. The people of the Shen family are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself, especially the old woman of the Shen family. If you do something wrong, she may drive you out on the spot. If you want to stay with Shen Luoan, it will be very difficult. Yi Yu's chest tightened as she thought about the mistake she had made the night before. He was already wrong, the only thing he could do now was not to be discovered. Okay, I got it. I won't. Sleep early. Good night, sister. After hanging up, Yi Qianqian felt a little uneasy. Yi Yu was still young, and she had been spoiled from a young age. Could she really continue to stay in a place like the Shen family, where they would swallow her whole without spitting out the bones? As Yi Qianqian thought about it, she fell asleep without realizing it. The next day, Monday. Yu Lily got up very early. She put on her sportswear and went for a morning jog. Yu Lily bought breakfast on the way back. When she came back, it was already 8:10 in the morning, but Yi Qianqian had not gotten up yet. She went to knock on the door. After Yu Lily knocked on the door for a long time, Yi Qianqian came out lazily. When she opened the door and smelled the breakfast, Yi Qianqian's eyes lit up. Chapter 959. Seeing the sportswear on Yu Lily, Yi Qianqian felt like she had seen a new human being. She shouted, wow, Lily, your work and rest are so regular. You can wake me up every day, and I will definitely not be late. I think you should go running with me every day. Not only will you not be late, but you will also be healthy. When Yi Qianqian heard that, she immediately waved her hand and said, forget it. I choose to be a quiet, beautiful woman. Hearing that, Yu Lily glanced at her, quickly ate her breakfast, and said, how do you usually go to work? By bike. My little donkey is parked downstairs. Unfortunately, it is a single car, so only one person can ride it. Yi Qianqian took a bite of the bun and said, wait for me. After I finish eating, let's walk together. I'll show you the way. Yi Qianqian ate slowly. Yu Lily looked at her and felt a little sorry for her. She said, no, I'll go by myself. I've just checked the spots. You can go by bike and eat slowly. Yi Qianqian was a little embarrassed. Oh, okay. Yi Qianqian took a sip of soy milk. I don't want to walk. Yu Lily chuckled. After changing her clothes, she went out. It was exactly 8:30. Yu Lily walked in the direction of the company. She wore flat shoes and looked at the scenery all the way. The surrounding environment was good, and the location should be more expensive than she thought. Yu Lily walked forward for about 10 minutes and passed through a busy section of the road. There were various markets and stalls selling fruit and flowers nearby. There were many people here, but today the people were particularly harmonious. Just beside the road, an old lady in a beautiful qipao was lying. Many people passed by, but they just glanced at her and then immediately walked away. Yu Lily felt a little angry when she saw such a scene. An old lady was lying on the side of the road, and no one went to help her. However, on second thought, she felt that this kind of mentality was normal. After all, there were many people who blackmailed people. However, Yu Lily looked at the old lady's chest up and down and felt that something was wrong. Yu Lily stepped forward, not daring to get too close. She glanced at the old lady's face and found that the old lady's face looked very ugly, a little blue and a little white. His breathing was rapid, and his chest was heaving up and down. When Yu Lily saw that, she knew that something was wrong. She stepped forward, but the person next to her shouted, "Miss, don't go over. Those old men and women are very picky. What if you go over and say that it was your fault?" A middle-aged woman carrying a basket kindly reminded him. That was exactly what worried Yu Lily the most. Now Yu Lily had nothing, especially money. If she was blackmailed by this old lady again, she could really go to hell. But this old lady looked very strange. What if they really killed such an old lady because of everyone's inaction? Yu Lily didn't think she was a kind person, but when she saw the situation, she couldn't just walk away. Yu Lily looked around and said, "Auntie, if something really happens later, please testify for me." Chapter 960. Yu Lily reached out to check the old lady's breathing and found that the old lady's breathing was very weak. Suddenly, the old lady raised her hand and held Yu Lily's wrist that was checking her breathing. Yu Lily was caught off guard. Her heart skipped a beat as she looked at the old lady who had suddenly come back to life with a face full of horror. When she was about to speak, she saw that the old lady's eyes almost popped out. She struggled to open her mouth and shouted, "Help me!" Yu Lily was shocked and saw the old lady's eyes turn over and lie down. Yu Lily checked the old lady's heartbeat and found that it was still beating, but it was very weak, and her breathing was very small. Shocked, Yu Lily helped the old lady up and shouted, "Everyone, help me. The old lady really can't make it. I know there is a hospital nearby. Which way to go?" "Turn left at the intersection," a woman shouted. Yu Lily carried the old lady, but no one was willing to help. Yu Lily was disappointed. When Yu Lily dragged the old lady to the hospital, she immediately sent her to the emergency room. The doctor gave the old lady's belongings to Yu Lily. Yu Lily found that the old lady was quite fashionable. The mobile phone she used was the latest model of Apple, which was the same model she was using now. Unexpectedly, there was no password. Yu Lily looked through the address book and found that all the saved names were related, such as husband, son, eldest grandson, second grandson, etc. Yu Lily directly called the old lady's son. The old lady's son's mobile phone belonged to the capital. Yu Lily felt a little surprised. The old lady's son quickly picked up. "Hello, Mom, where have you been? I have been looking for you for a long time." Listening to the voice, it should be a middle-aged man with a pure northern accent. Being called mother by such a person, Yu Lily was a little embarrassed and said, "The old lady just fainted on the side of the road." However, before Yu Lily finished her words, the man on the other side had already exploded and roared, "What? Fainted?" Yu Lily was shocked by his roar, and her voice suddenly stopped. A voice quickly came from the other side and asked, "Where are you now?" "I sent her to the hospital. This is the Second People's Hospital of Kingstown. The old lady is still in the emergency room." "Kingstown? How did she go to Kingstown? This old lady is too troublesome." Yu Lily was speechless. "Old woman. Is she talking about my mother? Wait a minute, I'll ask my daughter to go over. Give me your number." Mine? You could have just come over. Why did you take my number?" Yu Lily had a bad feeling. "Oh, girl, you have to help me save my mother first. This old lady is not very smart. When she wakes up, she will definitely look for you. Leave your phone number so that I can find you." No, I don't have any money here. The doctor will ask me for medical fees later." I'd better go now. I've left everything at the front desk. Tell your daughter to come quickly. Miss. Lily was so scared that she hung up the phone. She left everything at the front desk. The old lady had a lot of money in her wallet, enough to pay for the emergency treatment. Chapter 961. Who knew that not only the old lady's son asked for her number, but also the receptionist asked for her number, saying that it was convenient for family members to thank her. Lily thought about it and wrote down the phone number. As soon as she finished writing, her phone rang. It was Editor-in-Chief Zhou. What made Lily even more depressed was that it was almost 10 o'clock. That was to say, she was an hour late. Lily quickly took a taxi to the company and sprinted to the company as fast as she could. When she saw it was 10 o'clock, Lily wanted to cry but had no tears. Unexpectedly. I'm late again. Lily went to Editor-in-Chief Zhou's office and admitted her mistake. Her attitude was very good. Unexpectedly, when Editor-in-Chief Zhou saw her, she just sighed, stepped forward, pointed to Lily's head, and said, You live with Yi Qianqian now, don't you? Why are you late when Yi Qianqian is not late? Lily lowered her head and said with a guilty conscience, I met an old lady on the way. She fainted, so I took her to the hospital. I'm late. You actually went to do something for the sake of justice? Weren't you afraid that the other party was trying to blackmail you? I was afraid, but if the old lady died, would have nightmares. Editor-in-Chief Zhou looked contemptuous and said, You said it as if it was true. It was true. Well, I wanted to promote you to be an editor. Look at you, how can I promote you? Editor-in-Chief Zhou sighed. Thank you for what you did last time. Lily was sure that Editor-in-Chief Zhou didn't mean to scold her. She breathed a sigh of relief and looked up. It's okay. Pay attention next time. Don't be late again. You have to do a good job. Because of the comic Love Transaction, the number of downloads of our app has increased dramatically. Now Ziyu and Yi Qianqian are too busy. We need to promote another person to be an editor. When Shan Yu heard about this, she has been very active recently. You have to work hard. I still favor you. Lily felt a little embarrassed. She scratched her face and said, Is this a backdoor? Editor-in-Chief Zhou glared at her and said, No. Go to work. Yes. Lily immediately turned and walked out. Shan Yu had just returned to her seat. Lily didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the way Shan Yu looked at her was a little weird. With a friendly smile, Lily turned on the computer and started working. However, in the afternoon, Lily received a call. It was a cell phone number from the capital. Lily guessed that it should be the old lady's family that morning. He picked up the phone. Hello? Are you Miss Yu? The girl who used my mom's phone to call me this morning? The voice was still the same as in the morning, but the tone was much friendlier. Yes, Lily replied. Oh, thank you so much. The doctor said that if I were a little late, my mother would be gone. Are you free now? I'm at work. I'm a little busy. Lily looked at the tall pile of contracts and felt a little awkward. If that's the case, can you come to the hospital when you're free after work? My mom has woken up. She wants to see you. All right, then I'll get busy first. Chapter 962. Politeness was mutual. Lily was in a good mood when she heard such a tone. In the afternoon, when Lily got off work, Yi Qianqian rode her bike and told Lily that she was going to buy groceries and went back. Lily was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, she went to the hospital. After asking about the old lady's situation, Lily went to a ward. It turned out to be a VIP ward. Lily was a little shocked when she saw this. It seemed that this family was rich. In the morning, she was worried that it might be a scam. She really thought too much. She knocked on the door and walked in. At a glance, she saw Shen Manting standing inside. Yu Lily was stunned. At the same time, Shen Manting was also shocked and blurted out, "It's you?" In the ward, in addition to Shen Manting, there was also an old lady lying in bed. Next to her sat a middle-aged man, who looked a little fat. He had a round face and a smile on his face. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, and his skin was a little white. At first glance, it was a classic face of a rich man. But his facial features were very regular. It was not difficult to imagine that he must have been handsome in the past. When the middle-aged man heard Shen Manting's voice, he looked up at Yu Lily and asked, "Manting, do you know this girl?" Shen Manting put her hands in her pockets and said with some dissatisfaction, "How can I not know her? Isn't she O Ming's mistress?" Mistress, these two words were filled with ridicule, contempt, disdain, and hostility. Yu Lily's face suddenly changed and became extremely ugly. When the middle-aged man heard that, his face also changed and he turned to look at Shen Manting. Shen Manting suddenly realized that she had said something wrong and shouted, "Dad, O Ming has a mistress outside? Do you want to marry this kind of man?" The middle-aged man's face became ugly, and he looked at Yu Lily with a different look. Shen Manting stuttered and said, Enough." The old lady suddenly spoke with indescribable majesty in her voice, with a slightly low voice of warning. "No matter who he is, it is true that he saved me." While speaking, the old lady looked at Yu Lily, and her eyes were undoubtedly much softer. She waved at her and said, "Little girl, come to me." Yu Lily didn't look too good, and her smile was a little forced. The middle-aged man, who had been polite just a moment ago, now looked at her with contempt, just like everyone else, because she had called him a mistress. Yu Lily's heart was indescribably sad. Seeing the old lady waving, she not only did not go over, but also took a step back and said, "Seeing that the old lady is fine, I am relieved. I will go back first. Goodbye. Come here, girl." The old lady shouted, but Yu Lily's footsteps became faster and faster. Soon, she was out of the ward and out of the corridor. The old lady was a little annoyed. She patted her son and shouted, "Go and bring that girl back. Do you want me to die of anger?" The old lady's son quickly stood up and walked out. Seeing Yu Lily's back, he chased after her and stopped in front of her. Chapter 963. You are too polite. I am a junior. You don't have to say that to me. Yu Lily smiled reluctantly. I still have something to do. I have to go. Miss, I'm sorry. The middle-aged man blocked her way and said with a troubled expression, "My mother seems to like you very much. If you leave now, I'm afraid my mother will break my legs. It's too dangerous." Yu Lily saw his embarrassed look and smiled. When the middle-aged man saw her smile, he took the opportunity to act cute and said, "Do you have the heart to watch me die?" Yu Lily looked at him and inexplicably felt that this uncle was very cute, but she still bowed her head and said, "Uncle, I also want to help you, but my identity is not suitable to appear in front of your family. Sorry, I have to go." "What identity?" "Your current identity is my mother's savior. That's a different thing, right?" The middle-aged man reached out to her and said, "My name is Shen Longyue." "What's your name?" "Yu Lily." Yu Lily reached out and gently shook his hand, but soon let go. "Well, now we know each other. Let's go in." The middle-aged man looked embarrassed and begged, pointing to the road ahead. Yu Lily looked at Shen Longyue and turned back into the ward. As soon as she entered, she saw the old lady looking at Yu Lily. The old lady's eyes stared at Yu Lily's face for a long time. Yu Lily was a little scared. She subconsciously touched her face and looked at Shen Longyue behind her. Shen Longyue was also a little embarrassed. He said, "Don't be offended. My mother is more. Well, she is a fortune teller. She likes to look at other people's faces and hands. It's physiognomy and palmistry. You can ask my mother to look at it. She is very accurate." Yu Lily had always been an atheist, but she still believed in fortune-telling and physiognomy. She didn't know if it was superstition, but she had an indescribable belief in these things. The old lady stared at Yu Lily for a long time and said, "Girl, what is your name?" "Yu Lily." "Her name is Yu Lily. I told you, Grandma." Shen Manting sat under the stool next to the old lady and looked at Yu Lily unhappily. Yu Lily nodded, feeling a little strange. She was sitting face to face with her love rival in the ward of her love rival's grandmother. It was a very magical experience, even though she had broken up with Oh Ming. Old Mrs. Shen nodded and smiled. She reached out to Yu Lily and said, "The name is very nice, but your life is already light. With this name, it will be even lighter. You should change your name. How about Shen Inue?" "Huh?" Yu Lily was a little confused. "Change my name?" Changing her name the first time they met? That wasn't too good, was it? Yu Lily felt a little strange and looked at Shen Longyue. Unexpectedly, Shen Longyue said helplessly and awkwardly, "My mother is like this. Don't mind her. Just listen to her." Chapter 964. Hearing that, Yu Lily was stunned. "Before the age of 25, I will have bad luck with my parents, husband, and son." Indeed, she had no parents. As for her husband, it seemed that he didn't kill Oh Ming, but he lost his child. Old Mrs. Shen looked at Yu Lily with a serious face and said, "Before the age of 25, you will be very unlucky, especially after the age of 20, you will face a life-and-death catastrophe. If you survive, your future will be unimaginable. If I'm not wrong, you should be 24 years old now, right?" Yu Lily was stunned, nodded, and said, "Yes, that's right." "Show me your palm." Yu Lily stretched out her left hand. Male left, female right. Then, Yu Lily stretched out her right hand. The old lady looked at Yu Lily's palm and said, "You should have been born during the Chinese New Year, but the time of your birth was too hot. You should know that when things reach an extreme, they will go in the opposite direction. So, your life was shortened. Before the age of 3, you will have a big disaster. If you can survive it, you will live. After the age of 25, you will enjoy all the glory and wealth and live a happy life. You will have a son and a daughter. You will be successful in your career and have both fame and wealth. The only thing you need to do is to prevent your husband's love. You will suffer a little before the age of 25. Listening to the old lady's words, Yu Lily subconsciously wanted to take a seat. Looking at the old lady, she felt a little magical. Shen Manting was not happy and said, "Grandma, why did you tell me a bad fortune, but a good fortune for her?" Old Mrs. Shen looked at Shen Manting and said, "Everyone has their own fate. I have already told you about your fate. Grasp everything now and don't be easily shaken. No matter what trouble you encounter, don't let go. Then your life will be beautiful, otherwise." The fate of Shen Manting that old Mrs. Shen said made Yu Lily subconsciously think of Oh Ming. Is it to let Shen Manting hold on to Oh Ming and not let go? No matter what kind of trouble you encounter, don't let go. Yu Lily felt a little magical. Is it fun to be spoiled in advance? Yu Lily didn't know, but after hearing such words, she was in a very good mood. Whether it is true or not, I have survived for so long. Isn't it worth celebrating? But, who is her husband? Is it Oh Ming? It shouldn't be Oh Ming, right? After having her life spoiled, Yu Lily listened to old Mrs. Shen's words more attentively. The old lady seemed to like Yu Lily very much. After talking to her for a long time, she became sleepy. After coaxing old Mrs. Shen to lie down, Yu Lily finally breathed a sigh of relief. He took out his phone to check the time. After saying goodbye to Shen Longyue, he walked out. Shen Manting quickly caught up and shouted, "Yu Lily." Yu Lily turned her head and looked at Shen Manting. Speaking of which, this was the first time she had spoken to Shen Manting face to face without knowing each other's identities. Yu Lily stood still, faced Shen Manting, and asked, "What?" "Congratulations, your luck is about to change, but I won't let go of O Ming. You should give up." Shen Manting was arrogant and domineering. She crossed her arms over her chest and looked superior. Yu Lily laughed. "Thank you, but we've already broken up." "Really?" Shen Manting asked doubtfully. "You'll break up with him?" Chapter 965. "Yes, we broke up." Yu Lily shrugged and turned to leave. "Wait a minute." Shen Manting caught up and stopped in front of Yu Lily, saying, "I think the name my grandmother gave you is very nice." "Shen Yinue?" Yu Lily raised her eyebrows in surprise. Shen Manting was a little proud and nodded, saying, "Yes, but I think changing a word will be more suitable for you. It's better to call it Don't Be Lascivious. Don't be lascivious and seduce other men. How good is that? Don't cling to O Ming anymore. You also heard my grandmother say that you will have another husband. It's good to let him go earlier." Hearing that, Yu Lily's eyes became cold and said, "It's very good. Your modified name is very suitable for you. Keep it for yourself, Miss Lascivious." As she said that, Yu Lily walked forward, pushed her away, and walked up. Shen Manting's cheeks puffed up and said, "You know, my wedding date with O Ming has been set. I will send you an invitation. You must come." Yu Lily's face became more and more gloomy, and she kept walking forward. The hospital was not far from the community where Yi Qianqian's house was located. Yu Lily walked for about 10 minutes to the gate of the community. It was already past 7 o'clock in the evening, and the surrounding sky was very dark. Just under the street lamp at the gate of the community, a Bentley was parked. Just next to the Bentley, there was a burgundy figure, leaning. When he saw Yu Lily, he straightened up and walked toward her. But Yu Lily acted as if she didn't see him, walked around him, and walked forward. Suddenly, a big hand took Yu Lily's hand. It was very cold. All kinds of clothes, Yu Lily could clearly feel the coldness from his hand. Looking back, his pair of peach blossom eyes, with yellow street lights in his deep eyes, were overflowing with love. Yu Lily's heart was slightly moved, but soon, she looked away, broke his hand, and did not speak. The man behind her was not willing to let go. His voice was low and hoarse, as if coming from thousands of mountains and rivers. He said, "Yu Lily, I miss you." Yu Lily pursed her lips, reached out to hold his wrist, looked at him, and pulled him away. Then, she took 2 steps back, turned around, and walked quickly into the community. From the beginning to the end, he did not say a word. O Ming looked at her back. His heart was terribly empty and in turmoil. Such a Yu Lily was more distressing than ever. However, it was still a little short. When she got home, Yi Qianqian was watching a Korean drama with a bag of chips in her hands. When he saw Yu Lily coming back, he said, "I've already bought some groceries and put them in the fridge. How is old lady Go?" "Not bad. She even read my fortune." Yu Lily changed her shoes and went to the bathroom before walking into the kitchen. "Would you like some noodles?" While watching the Korean drama, Yi Qianqian suddenly yelled, "I'm stuck. The male lead is scolding the female lead. I can't take it anymore. Ah. The male lead is becoming more and more of a scumbag." Yu Lily took a pot and filled it with water. She stared blankly at the water flowing down. Can't men in Korean dramas scold women? Of course not. The female lead should be cherished and cherished. How could you scold her? Scumbag, scumbag, scumbag. What about real life? That depends on how you scold him. Chapter 966. When Yi Qianqian heard that, she got angry and said, "Why don't you keep him for the new year?" Yu Lily chuckled and felt the heat from the stove. Her eyes were empty. Yi Qianqian felt something was wrong. She looked at her and asked, "Did your boyfriend scold you like that?" "Don't. Let's talk about it. Don't break up. Otherwise, it will be bad if he blames me in the future. We already broke up." Yu Lily turned her head and picked up the egg noodles and vegetables. She slowly processed them and said, "We can't wait for the new year. There are more important things to do during the new year." Well. Yi Qianqian felt something was wrong. Really? When? Traveling during the new year. Yu Lily put the noodles in and looked at Yi Qianqian with a smile. "Do you have any plans? If you don't, how about traveling together?" "Sure." Yi Qianqian looked excited. "When is the new year?" "During the new year, between the first and second day of the new year." Well. The smile on Yi Qianqian's face gradually disappeared. "No, I have to go home. I haven't been home all year. If I don't go home during the new year, my mother will kill me." "I understand." Yu Lily looked at the steam rising from the pot while cooking the noodles. She looked down and said, "I'm just saying. I used to travel alone. When she wasn't with Oh Ming, she worked part-time during the new year. During the years when she was with Oh Ming, she went everywhere during the new year. After she broke up with Oh Ming, Yu Lily spent the next few years walking and stopping. As she walked, she painted, and sometimes she felt sad. Originally, she thought that she wouldn't be able to make it through the new year. Unexpectedly, she was still alive and well. Yi Qianqian felt a little sorry for Yu Lily, but she didn't say it. She quickly changed the topic. They ate the noodles together. After washing the dishes, Yu Lily went back to her room to paint. But she was really not in a good mood. Yu Lily lay on the bed, picked up the headphones, plugged them in, and turned on the monitor plug-in in Shen Manting's phone. Shen Manting seemed to be on her way home. There was the sound of cars driving and honking. At the same time, there was the sound of the car radio. After about half an hour, it finally quieted down. Yu Lily could clearly hear the sound of Shen Manting's high heels, the sound of her entering the password, and the sound of the door opening. However, after Shen Manting closed the door, she exclaimed in surprise. Even Yu Lily felt a little creeped out by the sound. Then, she opened her mouth and shouted, "Big brother, why are you here? Big brother? That's Shen Luoan, right?" She pricked up her ears and heard the man's footsteps. Shen Manting retreated in fear. Then, she heard the sound of something being hit. "Big brother, don't," Shen Manting said in a sobbing voice. "You said that as long as I get married before this year, you will." Yu Lily was shocked and looked up. Was Shen Manting in danger? However, wasn't the other party Big Brother? Why was there such a sound? Shen Luoan's voice was unexpectedly pleasant to the ears. It was like a thick subwoofer. "I said that as long as you get married before this year, I won't touch you." Chapter 967. In Yu Lily's heart, there was a word that was running amok. Asterisk 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 asterisk. She seemed to have stumbled upon a huge secret. But then, Shen Manting's bag seemed to be thrown far away. After several collisions, Yu Lily could hear the sound over there, but she couldn't hear it clearly. Shen Luoan took the bag from Shen Manting's hand and threw it into the room. The bag rolled from the sofa to under the coffee table, far away from them. Shen Manting looked at Shen Luoan in front of her in horror and kept shrinking back. Shen Luoan saw Shen Manting like this, and his eyes were a bit gentle, but his actions were overbearing. He approached her step by step and said, "But Ming doesn't like you at all. Can't you see it?" Shen Manting looked at him with red eyes and said, "I will get married this year, and my grandmother also hopes that I will get married before this year. I can't let her down. Brother, you should give up. We are brother and sister." Shen Luo smiled, as usual, gentle as jade. However, he stretched out his hands and placed them on both sides of her body. He leaned forward and said in a threatening manner, "What kind of brother and sister are we? You know very well that we aren't related by blood. It's just my wishful thinking that allowed me to recognize you. You also know that my brain isn't that good." Shen Manting shrank back in fear and almost cried out. She shouted, "Brother, you can't do this." Shen Luo suddenly approached her and pressed her against him. Shen Manting groaned and turned her head away. Shen Luo said, "When I asked you to choose between Li Xicheng, Ming, and me, you should have chosen me instead of that playboy. Now, do you regret it? Brother, don't do this." Shen Manting was about to cry. "Don't be afraid." Shen Luo was obviously a lot calmer. "I mean what I say." Shen Luo's gentle eyes were stained with sharpness. He squatted down and looked her in the eyes. "But you'd better be clean. Don't let me find out about this dirty trick again." Shen Manting looked up in shock. "How did you? Don't be too lucky. I know everything." Shen Luo looked at her deeply. Then, the sound of his footsteps faded away, and the door was closed. She finally heaved a sigh of relief, but the fear and guilt in her heart overflowed. How could this be? How could this be? Shen Manting's body gradually collapsed and she leaned against the door. After a long time, she got up from the ground and stumbled over to find her cell phone to make a call. Yu Lily hadn't heard anything just now. Now that Shen Manting picked up the phone, she could hear the voice on the other end. "What should I do? Big brother is looking for me again." Yu Lily did not expect to hear such a big secret. Shen Manting and Shen Luo have some kind of ambiguous relationship? But wasn't Yi Yu married to Shen Luo? Shen Luo had an affair with his own sister? What a mess. Yu Lily felt that her brain capacity wasn't enough. She stood up abruptly and subconsciously wanted to tell Yi Qianqian about it. Chapter 968. If I'm found out, will I be treated as a pervert? Yu Lily felt a little distressed and frowned. While she was hesitating, Yi Qianqian's door was suddenly opened. She was caught off guard and saw a person standing at the door. Yi Qianqian's heart skipped a beat and she jumped back. When he saw that it was Yu Lily, he was scared out of his wits. "You scared me to death. What are you doing here?" Yu Lily was also shocked. Faced with Yi Qianqian's question, she couldn't help feeling guilty. "Well, what am I doing here?" Yu Lily didn't know how to explain herself. After thinking for a while, she still couldn't think of what to say. She saw Yi Qianqian's face was strange. She approached cautiously step by step, looked at her suspiciously, and said, "Are you gay? And a gay voyeur?" Yu Lily narrowed her eyes and said, "Even if I'm gay, I won't like this kind of person." Hearing that, Yi Qianqian's face puffed up. She looked unconvinced and said angrily, "What's wrong with me? How am I bad? I have breasts and a butt. I'm not bad at all." Yu Lily looked suspicious and shook her head. "I really can't see how you are not bad." Yi Qianqian received a critical hit and almost beat her up, but she quickly snorted and said, "By the way, why are you looking for me?" "Oh, I just want to see if you are asleep. If you are not, let's go for a night run." Yi Qianqian looked desperate and said, "Why do we have to go for a night run? Snacks are not good? Korean dramas are not good? Mobile phones are not fun? Why do we have to go for a night run?" Yu Lily was speechless and turned around, but she was still curious and asked, "You said that your sister married Shen Luo-an. How is her relationship with Shen Luo-an?" "How would I know? I am not interested in their life. I am a single dog, so I don't need to pay so much attention to it. Otherwise, I will be abused to tears." Yu Lily looked at her sympathetically. Suddenly, she smirked and asked, "Girl, are you still a virgin?" Yi Qianqian was speechless. "No way, really? How old are you?" 26. 27. 28. Scram. "Hey, you're angry from embarrassment. Tell me, how old are you?" However, Yu Lily's response was a loud slam of the door, followed by an earth-shattering cry. "Oh my God, there's no justice in this day and age. It's my fault that I'm single." Yu Lily smiled and walked back to the room. Yi Qianqian lay on the bed for a long time. She scratched her head and picked up her cell phone to call Yi Yuyu. The phone rang for a long time before Yi Yuyu picked it up. It sounded like she was sleeping. "Hello?" Yi Yuyu turned on the light to clear her head. Yi Qianqian's voice sounded a little strange. She asked, "How is your relationship with Shen Luo-an?" When Yi Yuyu heard the question, she perked up. Sitting up from the bed, Yi Yuyu asked, "You never care about the things between me and brother Luo-an. Why do you ask this now?" Chapter 969. Yes. That girl seems to be very interested in the relationship between you and Shen Luo-an, Yi Qianqian said. Yi Yuyu heard the excitement in her words and exposed her disdainfully, "You are curious yourself. Why do you push it to others?" Yi Qianqian smiled and said, "Half and half. Tell me quickly. I don't know if it's good or not. Since we got married, he has never slept with me." Yi Qianqian was shocked and exclaimed, "No way." Yi Yuyu nodded and felt frustrated. "Besides, he has never hugged me or kissed me. Every time I go back, he just looks at me and asks, 'You're back?' Then he has nothing to say. Oh my God. How can you not have feelings? You have no feelings at all." Yi Qianqian exclaimed. "How can you tolerate it? Otherwise, he always tells me that he is not ready and asks me to wait." Yi Yuyu's voice was already crying. "Sister, you also think it's abnormal, right?" "Nonsense. It's so abnormal." Yi Qianqian gave her a big supercilious look and said, "It's lucky that you didn't lose your temper. If it were me, I might have slept with him that night. What does it mean to let you live like a widow?" While speaking, it seemed that she thought of something and said, "Is it because of the old woman of the Shen family? That old woman told him not to touch you? Not to sleep with you?" Yi Yuyu paused and also felt that it was very possible. The more Yi Qianqian thought about it, the more confused she became. She scolded, "Damn it, that old woman. She thinks she is an eminent monk and goes around telling people's fortunes. I think brother Luo and doesn't like you at all. He just uses the old woman's power to force you to divorce." However, after Yi Qianqian said this, she noticed that something was wrong. Hearing the silence on the other side, Yi Qianqian quickly explained and said, No, I said something wrong." "Yuyu, don't think too much, sister," Yi Yuyu interrupted Yi Qianqian's words. "I know that brother Luo and doesn't like me, but he doesn't like anyone else, right? As long as I can be with him, I will be satisfied." When her voice fell, the phone vibrated. She picked it up and saw that it was a call from Li Jinnan. When Yi Qianqian heard what Yi Yuyu said, she sighed and said, "You silly girl, why aren't you sleeping? It's already past 11. Get ready, sleep early, good night." "Good night." Yi Yuyu hung up on Yi Qianqian and answered Li Jinnan's call. "GM Li, do you still want your wedding ring?" Li Jinnan's voice sounded nonchalant. She could even imagine his nonchalant expression. It was as if he didn't care about anything. Of course. Come and get it yourself. Come to my office tomorrow. With that, he hung up the phone. Yi Yu didn't have time to say anything. Naturally, she didn't have time to reject him either. Looking at the phone, Yi Yu thought about what Yi Qianqian had just said. Her emotions were complicated. By the time Yi Yu arrived at the NC headquarters, it was already past 10 a.m. Chapter 970. Yi Yu sat inside and played with her phone. After a few minutes, she heard something outside. Li Jinnan's voice came through the door. At the same time, there was a familiar voice. Yi Yu's body stiffened. She stood inside and looked outside. Li Jinnan was wearing a straight and beautiful long windbreaker. He wore a thin white shirt inside, which showed off his healthy and strong body. And Li Jinnan had a characteristic. He didn't wear a suit like many people. Relatively speaking, he dressed much more casually than many people, but he was very handsome. Perhaps because he had been in the army, Li Jinnan gave people an indescribable sharpness at first glance. But if you looked closely, you would find that the sharpness had been restrained. When you looked again, it was like the clouds and the wind, and his eyes were as clear as the moon. Just behind Li Jinnan, a man walked up as well. He was wearing a black coat, a dark gray scarf, dark gray trousers, and pitch-black leather shoes. He was slightly shorter than Li Jinnan, but he was still very tall. His facial features were clear, and his eyes were like stars. He didn't smile, but he was naturally charming. It's him. It was the man that Yi Yu had loved for 10 years, Shen Luo'an. Shen Luo'an sat opposite Li Jinnan, and the secretary quickly came in with coffee. Yi Yu had mixed feelings. Seeing Shen Luo'an there, she inexplicably didn't dare to go out. Why? Even Yi Yu didn't know. She turned back to the sofa, and her heart was in a mess. Hearing the two men talking outside, Yi Yu felt a little strange. One was her husband whom she loved deeply, and the other was her boss whom she had a one-night stand with. And she was hiding in her boss's office, not daring to go out. What is this situation? Yi Yu looked in the mirror in front of her. The delicate makeup on her face made her already beautiful features even more beautiful. But I am so beautiful. Why doesn't Shen Luo'an feel anything for me? Mr. Shen, I seem to have heard some rumors recently. It seems that you are married? Li Jinnan looked indifferent. He looked at Shen Luo'an in front of him and asked casually as he drank his coffee with a smile. When Shen Luo'an heard this, he smiled faintly and asked, "Who told you that?" "I forgot about that. After all, once the news comes out, everyone will hear it. Towards the end, it will become more and more distorted." Shen Luo'an's smile widened as he said, "No." "No?" Li Jinnan gently put his hand into his coat pocket. His long fingers gently rubbed the ring lying in the pocket. His eyes fell on Shen Luo'an's hand. Shen Luo'an's hands were unadorned. As if sensing Li Jinnan's gaze, Shen Luo'an extended his hand and waved it as he said, "I'm not married." Li Jinnan had a look of understanding on his face. He nodded his head and said, "So that's how it is. It looks like the rumors out there can't be trusted after all." "Of course." Shen Luo'an took a sip of coffee and smiled. When Yi Yu heard Shen Luo'an's reply, she still felt very disappointed, even though it was within her expectations. Yi Yu didn't listen to what they said next. She clutched her arms and shrank into a ball in the lounge. She didn't dare go out. Chapter 971. Did you hear all that? Li Jinnan put his hands in his pockets and said, "He said he's not married." Yi Yu held her hands together and bit her lower lip. She had mixed feelings. Yes, he's not married. In Shenluo's heart, maybe marriage is just a process. Why should I care so much? I don't care. As long as I can be with him, it's okay. It doesn't matter whether there is love or not. The word marriage has tied the two of them together. Unless she was willing, they would never be able to separate. The initiative is in my hands, isn't it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Li Jinan noticed the change in her mood. His eyes were as deep as water. He slowly said, he doesn't have a lover. Those few words easily reminded her of what he had said to her when she had threatened to kill herself to force him to marry her. He had said, Yi Yuyu, I can marry you, but I won't love you. I can't love you anymore. I can't love anymore. Because of her threat, he could marry her, but he wouldn't love her. At that time, she didn't think it mattered, but she ignored the most terrible human nature, greed. Now that she was married to him, she wanted more. Yi Yuyu glared at him, stood up abruptly, and ran out. Her eyes couldn't stop burning. Yi Yuyu bit her lower lip and pressed the elevator button to go downstairs. Li Jinan looked at her back and looked down at the wedding ring on his finger. He felt a little helpless. Didn't she come to get the ring? Now she hasn't even gotten the ring, and she's already running away. After Yi Yuyu got out of the elevator, she ran out of the door and could see Shenluo's back from a distance. It was so familiar, so straight. Yi Yuyu stopped. Shenluo didn't notice that Yi Yuyu was behind him. He was looking down at the news that had just been pushed out on his phone. Everyone is happy. The daughter of the Shen family announces the good news of her marriage with O Ming. It will be before the new year. Shenluo looked at the news, smiled gently, and muttered to himself, can't wait? Or is it just to warn me? Yi Yuyu watched Shenluo walk away. Her feet seemed to be nailed, and she couldn't move. Not far away from them, there was a big screen in front of them that was scrolling through the news. And, the most eye-catching news was the big news about the marriage between the young master of the O clan and the young master of the Shen clan. So, Shen Manting is getting married? Yi Yuyu felt a sense of relief. Happiness crept onto her face. When Yu Lily saw this message, her hands that were typing suddenly stopped. Looking at the 10-cent news push in the lower right corner, Yu Lily moved the mouse and clicked on the news. There were only pictures of O Ming and a selfie of Shen Manting. That's great, they're getting married. On the 23rd of the 12th month, they could celebrate the new year right after they got married. Yu Lily's mood was indescribably gloomy. They had already broken up, so why did she still care so much? Yu Lily closed the web page and was about to continue working when the new receptionist outside shouted, Yu Lily, someone is looking for you. Yu Lily looked up but didn't see who it was. He stood up and walked outside. However, the first thing he saw wasn't a person, but a huge bouquet of pink roses. Seeing the roses, Yu Lily was a little surprised. Chapter 972. Shenjilia's facial features were very good-looking and well-defined. At first glance, he was a bit deep. When Yu Lily saw him, she frowned, then turned around and walked inside. Shenjilia immediately greeted her and shouted, Lily, Lily, this is for you. However, Yu Lily's pace quickened as she ran further inside. Shenjilia immediately followed her and shouted, Lily, don't be so cruel. Give me a chance. Her colleagues all looked over with a bit of ambiguity and ridicule in their eyes. When Yu Lily met his gaze, she became even more impatient. She turned around and shouted, Are you done yet? Are you done? Shenjilia took the opportunity to put the roses in her arms and said with a smile, Look, it's over. Yi Qianqian was pouring water. When she heard the movement here, she came in with a glass of water and said with envy, Wow, what a beautiful flower. Lily, is this your boyfriend? He is so handsome. Shenjilia was actually very proud of being praised in such a way. However, in front of Yu Lily, he still had to pretend to be a little reserved. Looking at Yi Qianqian, Shenjilia smiled and said, "You flatter me." Yu Lily put the roses back, looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "This is not my boyfriend." Then, she quickly walked back inside. Shenjilia almost dropped the roses, but he quickly caught them and held them in his arms. He walked in and said, "My good Lily, don't be angry. Let's go to dinner together later." Many people turned to look at him enviously. Especially Shan Yu. Shan Yu wore thick black-rimmed glasses, and her clothes were very ordinary and affordable sportswear. She was a little fat. She looked a little rustic, but she had just graduated from college and was 2 years younger than Yu Lily. At this moment, she looked at Shenjilia and couldn't move her eyes away. Yu Lily noticed Shan Yu's gaze and turned to glare at Shenjilia. She said, "This is an office area. Please don't disturb other people's work here, okay?" Many people looked at Shenjilia with sympathy. Shenjilia touched his nose and said, "You mean that you promised me to have dinner with you later? Alright, I'll wait for you outside first." Without giving Yu Lily a chance to refuse, Shenjilia put down the roses and turned to leave. Yu Lily looked at the roses with disgust and threw them into the trash can. Shan Yu looked at the bouquet of roses and felt that it was a pity. The tender and alluring petals were very fresh and beautiful. Yu Lily didn't notice Shan Yu's gaze, but Yi Qianqian did. Yi Qianqian noticed Shan Yu's gaze. She pretended to hold the coffee, walked to Yu Lily's seat, and said, "Is this really your boyfriend?" Wow, Yu Lily really hides her strength. She didn't bring such a handsome man out to meet her sisters. That's not good enough. I told you he's not my boyfriend. Yu Lily felt a little helpless. She looked up at her and said, "This guy is the one who caused me to break up with my boyfriend." She's a B***TCH. Chapter 973. Yu Lily glanced at her, picked up the flowers, and handed them to Yi Qianqian. "Here." Yi Qianqian held the flowers and smelled them. "They smell so good." She looked at Shan Yu and said, "Why don't we share them together?" Shan Yu looked at the bunch of flowers, but she quickly looked away. She pouted her lips with disdain and said, "I'm not that cheap. Why should we share what others don't want?" The expression on Yi Qianqian's face suddenly froze. Many people heard Shan Yu's words. Suddenly, there seemed to be an unspeakable awkwardness in the air. When Yu Lily heard this, she felt a little inexplicable, but she was angry and looked at Shan Yu. However, Shan Yu didn't realize what she had done wrong at all. Facing everyone's eyes, she looked puzzled and asked, "Did I say something wrong?" Yi Qianqian smiled and looked at the roses in her hand. She didn't know whether to put them down or take them. Yu Lily took the flowers and said, "Such a big thing. Why don't we each have one? It's very fresh." Yu Lily took the flowers out and gave one to each of her colleagues. There were still a dozen left. Yu Lily found a bottle and put it in front of her. "Look, I still have the most. Qianqian, come here. I'll give you a few more." Yi Qianqian looked at Yu Lily gratefully, took it, and said, "Thank you, Lily." Many people could see that Yi Qianqian thanked Yu Lily not for the flowers, but for helping her out. Shan Yu, on the other hand, was much more straightforward. She put the roses on the keyboard. Seeing Yu Lily's behavior, she muttered, "Hypocrite." Yu Lily was angry. She slammed the table and stood up. Everyone was taken aback by Yu Lily's imposing manner, but Yi Qianqian managed to calm them down. Yi Qianqian laughed and said, "Time's up. Let's eat." "Lily, I suddenly want to eat the fat cow across the street. Let's go together." Yu Lily was furious and annoyed. She turned to look at Yi Qianqian, only to see her winking at her. Yi Qianqian kept winking at her. She pulled Yu Lily up and said, "Let's go." As soon as they were out, Yu Lily yelled out, "Is that woman sick?" She's retarded. There's something wrong with her brain. Shenjilia heard Yu Lily's voice from afar. He rushed over and asked, "What's going on? What's wrong?" When Yu Lily saw Shenjilia, she felt even angrier. She roared, "Why are you here? Are you so free? Don't you need to go to work? Aren't you a psychologist? Is it fun to dress up like this all day to pick up girls? Are you crazy?" Shenjilia was dumbfounded by the yelling. He looked at Yi Qianqian with a confused expression. Yi Qianqian pulled Yu Lily back, smiled apologetically, and said, "It's okay. She was just angry. It's not a big deal." After venting, Yu Lily was in a much better mood. However, seeing Shenjilia still annoyed her. She pulled Yi Qianqian along and walked out of the office. Shenjilia immediately caught up and gestured to Yi Qianqian. "What's going on?" She shrugged her shoulders, shook her head, and sighed with an indescribable expression. Chapter 974. Yi Qianqian immediately followed Shenjilia and Yu Lily to the stone pot beef shop that they had mentioned earlier. Shan Yu looked at the backs of Yi Qianqian and Yu Lily, feeling very unconvinced. Shan Yu is Yi Qianqian's assistant. Why is Yu Lily, Ziyu's assistant, so close to Yi Qianqian? Now Yi Qianqian is the queen of performance in the company, and a large part of the company's traffic is brought back by Yi Qianqian. But Shan Yu didn't learn anything from her. It must be because Yi Qianqian taught Yu Lily all the time. Even Editor-in-Chief Zhou said that the next candidate for the position of editor was more inclined to Yu Lily. And last time I accidentally saw Yu Lily's computer, it seems that there is a relationship between her and Yi Qianqian, right? There was jealousy in Shan Yu's eyes. When she thought of how Yu Lily almost jumped up and beat her, she felt angry. Why? Why can Yu Lily get in through the back door? I'll get rid of you sooner or later. Shenjilia followed Yu Lily and Yi Qianqian into a restaurant and sat down. His incongruous style made Shenjilia attract a lot of attention. Feeling the eyes of the girls around him, Shenjilia smiled to show his politeness. When Yu Lily saw it, she sneered and said, "If you can laugh so much, why are you a psychiatrist? Go sell your laughter." Shenjilia asked, "Did you eat dynamite today?" Yi Qianqian looked at Shenjilia with her eyes shining and said, "So you are a psychiatrist?" Shenjilia was a little proud to receive the admiration of a girl. He smiled coquettishly. Shenjilia nodded and said, "Yes, now I work while going to school." "Wow, that's amazing." Yi Qianqian looked at him with eyes full of admiration and said, "Do you know hypnosis? I heard that not all psychiatrists can hypnotize people. It seems that the ability of hypnosis is also divided into different levels, right?" Shenjilia nodded and said, "Yes, because everyone's understanding, realm, and spiritual level are different." Yu Lily watched him enter the bragging mode with her own eyes, but she didn't interrupt him. She silently drank her tea, and after ordering the food, she handed it to Yi Qianqian and said, "Order as much as you can. He'll pay the bill." Yi Qianqian looked at the price list and then at the pink suit Shenjilia was wearing. Come on, how much money could there be in this kind of place even if they tried their best? Moreover, she didn't fit in with this young master who looked like a rich man at first glance. Yi Qianqian circled one and handed the menu back to Shenjilia. After ordering, Shenjilia continued to brag. Yi Qianqian listened attentively and was stunned by his professional knowledge. After they finished eating, Yi Qianqian was reluctant to leave. Her eyes sparkled as she listened to Shenjilia recount all the case studies. She quickly parted ways with Shenjilia. His voice was still echoing in her head. She looked at Yu Lily and said, "Lily, I think I can study psychology too. It's so interesting." Yu Lily laughed out loud and gave her a push. After working the entire afternoon, Yi Qianqian didn't ride her bike to her destination after work. Instead, he walked back home after arguing with Yu Lily. When she got home, it was 6:30, and it was already dark. Chapter 975. The man was meticulously dressed. His burgundy suit had been carefully ironed, and it was very neat and clean. At that moment, he leaned against the Bentley with a cigarette between his long fingers. When he saw them coming, he put out the cigarette by the trash can not far away and stood up straight. It was Oh Ming. When Yu Lily saw him, the smile on her face disappeared. When Yi Qianqian saw Oh Ming, she recognized him at a glance. Seeing him, Yi Qianqian felt a little strange. I can't believe I see such a person at the entrance of my own community. But, what is this guy doing here? Yi Qianqian turned to look at Yu Lily with a face full of gossip. When she was about to speak, she found that Yu Lily was also looking at Oh Ming with a solemn face. Yi Qianqian suddenly had a bad guess and said, "Could it be?" Yu Lily looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "You go up first. I have something to do." Yi Qianqian was stunned and couldn't believe it. It was amazing that she knew Li Jinan and a psychiatrist, but Yu Lily actually knew Oh Ming. Oh my God, is there a need to live? And from the looks of it, her relationship with Oh Ming isn't ordinary. This Yu Lily has too many secrets on her. When Yi Qianqian heard Yu Lily's words, she looked at Yu Lily and then looked at Oh Ming and said weakly, "Then I'll go up first." Okay. Yi Qianqian led her little donkey into the community. She looked back every few steps, but Yu Lily was not in a hurry to walk in Oh Ming's direction. This is really making Yi Qianqian anxious. Yu Lily looked at Oh Ming in front of her and smiled. She walked forward and said, "Congratulations, you're getting married soon." Oh Ming saw her smile, but he didn't feel happy at all. He couldn't help but reach out his hand. He looked at her and said, "Yu Lily." "Yes?" Yu Lily looked at Oh Ming and slightly raised her eyebrows. "What's wrong?" Oh Ming looked at her, pulled her into his arms, and said, "I won't marry her. Give me a little more time, and I will marry you openly and let you be my wife." Yu Lily slightly raised her face and leaned on his shoulder. His heart felt as though it was being twisted, and it was aching. But on the surface, he smiled and said, "Oh Ming." His voice was calm, with a gentle smile. However, this kind of voice made Oh Ming feel even more uncomfortable than hearing her roar. Oh Ming held her in his arms, unwilling to let go. She gently pushed him away, but to no avail. She placed her hands on his chest and said, "I'm scared. Do you know that?" Oh Ming's heart tightened, and he held her more tightly. Yu Lily simply gave up. Her eyes were burning, and her vision was blurred. Yu Lily could clearly feel his temperature and breath, but she felt that there was a very, very long ravine between them, deep and dark. As long as she moved forward a little bit, she would fall into it and be smashed into pieces, leaving nothing behind. "I'm afraid of your empty promises." Yu Lily's tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes. "I don't want to be a mistress anymore, and I don't want to live without dignity by your side. Do you remember that night?" Chapter 976. When Yu Lily heard that, she chuckled and said, "There is nothing to apologize for. Oh Ming, you should be glad that I didn't succeed in committing suicide. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. It's impossible." Oh Ming looked at her, and his throat tightened. "I can't let you die." Yu Lily shook her head, gently pushed his hands away, and said, "That's it. Let's part on good terms, okay? You have your wife, and I will find a man who loves and dotes on me in the future. I don't have to rely on you, Oh Ming." "No." Oh Ming suddenly panicked. In the face of such a Yu Lily, Oh Ming was at a loss. "No, Yu Lily." "Why not?" Yu Lily smiled, and there was some pity in her eyes. She looked at Oh Ming in front of her as if she was looking at an ignorant child. Soon, she looked away, turned around, and said, "No one can't live without someone else." As she spoke, she had already walked toward the gate of the community. However, Ming reacted quickly and pulled her back, shouting, "I can't." Ming's words made Lily stop. Ming stood behind her, looking at her back. His voice was a little empty, hoarse, and with a little bit of imperceptible fear. He said, "I can't, Lily. Without you, I can't live." When Lily heard that, she laughed out loud. She turned her head and looked at Ming. The compassion in her eyes deepened. She smiled brightly at Ming, as if she was the most brilliant sunflower following the sun, quietly blooming without a sound. "Don't deceive yourself, Ming." Lily looked at him and said word by word, "You are different from me. You can survive without anyone. It's just that without someone different, you will have a different kind of fun." From the beginning, Lily knew very clearly what her identity was, and what kind of identity she should use to exist in front of him. She could provide him for fun, for him to vent his desires, for him to play, but not for him to live. Because the only thing that allowed him to live had always been himself. He was just a clown. No one should take him seriously. In his world, Lily was just playing the role of a clown. She could have remained at his side as long as she wished, as a perceptive mistress, as a clown who knew how to please him. It was just like how the children in the orphanage scolded her when she was young. If she continued to pretend, she would be able to get candy. But she didn't want to, not anymore. It was not interesting at all. When Ming saw her smile, he silently tightened his grip on her hand and said, "Wait for me, okay? Wait for me for 2 months. In 2 months, I will solve the current problem. When that time comes, marry me." Ming. Lily took his hand away and said, "Go back. Your fiancé needs you more than I do." She shook him off and quickly walked back inside. With her back to Ming, her tears fell quietly. Ming looked at her back and felt a little frustrated. Back in the car, Ming took out his phone. She found Shen Luo's number and dialed it. When Lily came back, her eyes were red. Chapter 977. When Lily saw her, she smiled reluctantly and said, "I know what you want to ask. He is my boyfriend." Yi Qianqian was stunned and couldn't believe it. She blurted out, "Isn't he getting married?" Lily smiled reluctantly and nodded. "Yes, he is, but his partner is Shen Manting, Shen Luo's sister, the daughter of the Shen family." Compared with Shen Manting, her identity and background were worlds apart. Lily looked at Yi Qianqian, and her eyes became redder. She frowned, but she was still smiling. However, this smile was even uglier than when she was crying, and it was even more unbearable. Yi Qianqian looked at her and swallowed all the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She reached out and gently patted her on the back. "What's wrong, Lily? Cry if you are sad. It's better than holding it in your heart." Lily's eyes became redder, and tears quickly gathered in her eyes. But soon she wiped her tears and smiled brightly. "What do you want to eat? I'll cook." Seeing Lily like this, Yi Qianqian pouted and felt a little uncomfortable. She said, "Lily, don't be like this. You make me want to cry." Lily patted her, but she couldn't smile. Her throat was choked, and all the tears fell. Yi Qianqian looked at her like this, suddenly opened her mouth and cried out, "Lily, if you want to cry, just cry. Why are you like this? I can't help it." Seeing her like this, Lily smiled and pushed her to the sofa. "Get out of here. I don't want to see you. You are so useless." Yi Qianqian wiped her tears and said, "Don't cry. What do you want to eat? I'll cook for you. I'll cook for you. Is the food you cook edible?" Yu Lily wiped her face and looked disgusted. She turned and walked toward the kitchen and said, "Let's eat my best dishes." Okay. Yi Qianqian was just saying. How could she cook? If she was asked to cook, she would probably blow up the kitchen in minutes. Yu Lily smiled and turned to take out the ingredients she bought during the morning run in the fridge. Her best dishes were all O Ming's favorites. For the rest of the time, she was almost like a zombie. Yu Lily worked during the day and painted at night. On weekends, she quarreled with Yi Qianqian and went shopping. The days seemed very ordinary. However, O Ming was not so relaxed. In the private drug research institute, there was finally a breakthrough. The scientist in charge immediately reported the good news to O Ming, who was pleasantly surprised. Half a month passed, and the weather was getting colder. Yu Lily went to buy a new set of winter clothes. When it was the winter solstice, she made glutinous rice balls with Yi Qianqian. When Yi Qianqian called Yi Yuyu to come along, Yi Yuyu was already in the capital. The winter solstice was a time for family reunion. As a newly married woman, it was only natural for her to return to the Shen family. However, when she arrived at the airport, Shen Luohan, who was supposed to pick her up, didn't show up. Instead, Shen Jilia came to pick her up. Yi Yuyu was a little disappointed, but it was within her expectations. Chapter 978. A large basin of water splashed out. Shen Jilia instinctively took a step back and pulled Yi Yuyu back. Yi Yuyu looked on helplessly as the water brushed past her. She was still in a state of shock. Looking at the door, old Mrs. Shen was holding a basin of water. She was disappointed to see that the water didn't splash on Yi Yuyu. When Shen Jilia saw old Mrs. Shen, he shouted angrily, "Grandma, didn't you see that we're back? Why did you splash water? Children don't understand. You have to pour all the bad luck away. If the bad luck enters the door, it won't be so easy to get rid of it," old Mrs. Shen said seriously, but her eyes were fixed on Yi Yuyu. Shen Jilia was not stupid. He immediately knew who old Mrs. Shen was talking about. He turned his head to look at Yi Yuyu and said, "Sister-in-law, don't get me wrong. Grandma is talking about you. But these words are too hurtful." Shen Jilia was embarrassed to say it, but he saw Yi Yuyu smile and echo the old lady, "Yes, it's better to go." Her expression and look were as if she didn't know that the old lady was scolding her for bad luck. When old Mrs. Shen saw this, she sneered, turned around and walked in. She said lazily, "Bad luck is like a bitch. Whether you care about it or not, it still exists. It's really annoying." Shen Jilia was even more embarrassed. He looked at Yi Yuyu and said, "Sister-in-law." Yi Yuyu still looked the same. She nodded and said with a smile, "I think Grandma is right. Let's go in." When Shen Jilia saw Yi Yuyu's expression, he felt that Grandma was a little too much. However, even Yi Yuyu didn't lose her temper. Shen Jilia couldn't say anything. He helped Yi Yuyu carry the suitcase and walked inside. After Yi Yuyu walked in, she took the suitcase from Shen Jilia's hand and took it to Shen Luohan's room. When she entered, Shen Luohan was sleeping inside. Perhaps he heard the noise and opened his eyes. A pair of sleepy, hazy eyes looked over with an extremely sharp expression. When Yi Yuyu met his gaze, she froze on the spot. Shen Luohan glanced at the suitcase in her hand and looked at her left ring finger. He curled his lips and asked, "Do you like this room very much?" Yi Yuyu opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, she heard Shen Luohan say, "I'll give it to you." While speaking, Shen Luohan had already got up, put on his shoes, and stood up. Just as he was about to walk away, Yi Yuyu grabbed his hand. He stopped in his tracks and turned his head to look at her. Yi Yuyu's eyes flickered with sadness. "Brother Luohan, we are husband and wife." Shen heard this sentence and smiled. He held her hand and gently pushed it and said, Luo, and I said. You. Jia Shen looked at her. Shen Luo and reached out and patted the back of her hand. He said softly, you've already obtained the identity of Mrs. Shen. I've already married you. What else do you want? Although Shen Luo and was smiling when he said this, his eyes were cold. The coldness pierced deeply into Yi Yuyu's heart. Chapter 979. Yi Yuyu's breathing was disordered. She looked at Shen Luo and her heart was indescribably empty. Something seemed to be fermenting quickly, but when Yi Yuyu tried to catch it, it disappeared without a trace. Shen Luo had a smile on his face. He let go of her hand, gently pushed her away, and walked out of the room. The door was closed, and there was a slight sound. The spring that had been tightly gripped in her heart suddenly started to spin. Sorrow slowly and recklessly overflowed. What she wanted was not just this, however, there was no going back. Everything could not go back. The phone in her pocket vibrated slightly. Yi Yuyu listened to the ringtone of the phone and stood in the same place without moving. Li Jinan, who was far away in Kingstown, held the phone that was ringing and felt a little impatient. He had called more than a dozen times in a row, but there was no response at all. Really? What the hell? What was even more strange was that Li Jinan actually had the patience to make this phone call. Li Jinan was a little annoyed, took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a long breath. Little uncle, little uncle. A tender voice came in, with the unique sweetness of a little girl. Li Jianyue ran into Li Jinan's room and shouted, little uncle, mom and dad asked you to go outside. Li Jinan saw the lively little girl, put the phone in his pocket, stood up, and picked Li Jianyue up, and said, Ursu, have you eaten glutinous rice balls? Yes. Li Jianyue was very happy. She hugged Li Jinan's neck and said, are we going to the hospital to see great-grandpa? When can great-grandpa come back? Li Jinan touched the little girl's nose and said, soon, when great-grandpa's illness is cured, he can go home. Then when will great-grandpa's illness be cured? Li Jianyue looked at Li Jinan and was a little puzzled. Mom said that great-grandpa's illness is a heart disease, but this heart disease is not a heart disease. What is it? Is it a heart disease? Li Jinan carried Li Jianyue and walked out. He patiently explained, no, a heart disease is a disease of the mood, not a disease of the heart. For example, Ursu has a favorite toy today, but she accidentally lost it and can't find it. Will Ursu be unhappy? That's right. Li Jianyue nodded. This is called mental illness. Li Jianyue tilted her head and thought about it. She said, then, did great-grandfather lose his toy? Li Jinan smiled. As he spoke, he had already carried Ursu outside. Li Xicheng and Su Qianxi stood together like a pair of lovers, looking at each other and smiling. They had both a son and a daughter. How blissful. Li Jinan was a little envious. He reached out to touch Li Mosen's head and said, where is Desu? Li Mosen looked up at Li Jinan and said, Desu went to the hospital with Grandpa and Grandma to accompany great-grandpa. Now they are waiting for us to go together and accompany Grandpa for the winter solstice. Although Li Mosen was young, his narration was already well organized. His little brain was very smart. Su Qianxi held his hand and said, let's go. Great-grandfather is waiting for us. The family got into the nanny van, and the driver, Xiao Yang, drove. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.